Yo, bots! Hello, Wolfpack. We are back, and it's Transformers Tuesday again. I do have another tier list I've been wanting to do, but I'm not sure if there's many people interested in watching this one, so I decided to just do it on the weekday instead of the weekend. We're doing a tier list on every villain from the Transformers and G.I. Joe movies. Yes, a Transformers and G.I. Joe movie villains tier list. I actually found one. People have been asking me if I was going to do a ranking on the Michael Bay Transformers saga, because that's the last major one we haven't done a tier list on. However, I am not a huge fan of the Michael Bay verse movies. Nothing against people who like them. They're pretty dumb, mindless action movies. They're harmless, but they do not do a great service to Transformers. That is kind of my problem. However, I did find a list that had all the Transformers villains with the G.I. Joe villains, and I am a huge fan of G.I. Joe, so I actually did want to do this list. If you don't know G.I. Joe, it's about American soldiers fighting Cobra, a ruthless organization determined to rule the world. And not gonna lie, I think G.I. Joe's movies have done way better than Transformers movies. As you can tell, it's every movie villain ever. We got from the 80s Transformers animated movie all the way to Transformers 1, and unfortunately the Michael Bay vs. Saga antagonists are all on here too. And for G.I. Joe, we have the G.I. Joe animated movies and their live action movies, which unfortunately, a lot of people tend to forget even exist. Yeah, G.I. Joe actually did have movies. It had a great animated movie. Some people say it's just as good as the 80s Transformers movie was. And it had 2 live-action movies, which had very mixed reception. A lot of people hate them, but personally, I really love The Rise of Cobra, and I thought Retaliation was decent. Rise of Cobra, I like it. I really loved it. It's by the guy who made the Mummy movies, so of course it had awesome action and a pretty simple but fun storyline. I really like G.I. Joe's live-action movies way more than Michael Bay's Transformers movies, because Michael Bay's Transformers saga has only had one good movie, that was Bumblebee. Yeah, I know a lot of people love the first live-action Transformers movie. I was not a huge fan of it, but it wasn't offensively bad, and then the sequels happened, and they were offensively bad. They were worse than the first movie, and with each passing one, they got worse and worse, and didn't do well with critics or audiences, and unfortunately the box office numbers they kept getting lower, to the point where they decided to finally cancel them, but time will tell how long that sticks. Thankfully, Transformers 1 happened, and it definitely made good Transformers movies again. Transformers 1, I did watch this one before the last year ended, and it was awesome. It was really awesome. I highly recommend watching Transformers 1. Hey, Akira, you made it. Yeah, we're doing a surprise tier list for Transformers Tuesday. It's on the last Transformers saga I haven't covered yet. It's the Michael Bay verse. However, I didn't want to give them their own character list because I think nobody's gonna watch a tier list where every character but Optimus and Bumblebee gets a big fat F. Sorry, I got my 500 waters here in case, my breath runs out, and it is very hot and windy where I'm at, so I'm gonna be drinking a lot. Don't worry, I drink water, no alcohol. We're gonna rank all the G.I. Joe and Transformers villains from every movie. We are counting theatrical films. They had to have been released in theaters. They had to be movie events, and people have to have seen them, of course. These were like all on the big screen. The Transformers animated movie to Transformers 1, Michael Bay verse, the G.I. Joe live action flicks, and G.I. Joe's animated film, which has faded into obscurity. The G.I. Joe movies are really good. I think they're all underrated, except for Snake Eyes, but we'll get to that one. So it's a Hasbro tier list for boys. Yes, no Equestria villains made it, and honestly, I'm kind of glad, because it'd be embarrassing how Sunset Shimmer and Adagio would outdo Hugo Weaving's Megatron, so we'll save them that dishonor and just stick with the boy shows, Transformers and G.I. Joe. Hasbro does not own He-Man or Thundercats, so sorry if you wanted to see Frank Mangella's Skeletor on here. Just the terrorist villains and the giant killer robot terrorist villains. Alright, so I guess we should start. Let's start with the one you all want to see, Megatron. The animated Frank Welker Megatron. This is how we're going to be ranking them. If this is your first ever tier list, we're ranking them from best to worst. S rank, the greatest of the great, is You've Got the Power. These are the awesome ones. These are S tier. These are villain legends. Everybody loves these guys. They are great. They did a great job adapting them, and they were the most entertaining parts of their film, whether you're a fan or a normie like me. Next, we have Cobra Cool. These are the decent villains. They're good, not perfect. These are definitely villains who did the job, looked cool, looked badass, got a lot of villain cred under their belt, were definitely entertaining, but not full powered to S rank, just barely missing it. Then we have Basic Bot. These are okay. They're mid. They're mediocre. They're average villains. They did their job. There's a lot of good, but an equal amount of bad. They were almost awesome, but didn't quite make it. They were just okay. Then we have Lowly Snake. These are the weak ones. There was a speck of hope. They do have a bite behind their bark, but more bark than bite. They were definitely weak villains. They could have been something special, but just weren't. And then at rock bottom, we have Stupid Glitch. These are awful. These are bad. They are F+ failures. They are the worst villains of their movies, and unfortunately, if you're familiar with the Transformers Bayverse movies, you're going to be seeing a lot down here. So let's get started. Alright, as I said, let's do Megatron first, the iconic king of Saturday morning cartoon villains, Frank Welker's Megatron, who, yeah, you all know this, he's gone on You've Got the Power. This is Megatron straight from his 80s cartoon and at his A game. Megatron full-on kills people in this movie on screen. Literally the first second he's on screen. He kills Ironhide, he kills Ratchet, he kills, I think, Prowl, and he kills some fourth guy I don't remember. Like, he kills a lot of Autobots. This is a bloodthirsty warlord Megatron, and we all love Megatron. Even in the 80s G1 universe, he was definitely a top dog. Who doesn't love Megatron? So the actor who played Fred in Scooby-Doo played a Decepticon. Yes, he's Megatron, and he's Soundwave and Rumble and pretty much half the cast on the Transformers G1 show. Yeah, of course, Megatron, he's the best, he's awesome. Tragically, he gets killed like halfway in through his movie, and then he becomes Galvatron, who is kind of a different character, but we'll get to him. Yeah, who doesn't love Frank Welker's Megatron? Of course he's up here. Him and Optimus duke it out on screen, on the big screen for the first time ever, was amazing to all the 80s kids out there. And I definitely agree, even Megatron in his early days was still a top tier character. So he's on You've Got the Power. So let's do a Joe character next. We'll go back and forth. We'll do a Transformer, then a G.I. Joe character. So let's start with Cobra Commander, the King Serpent, and as you can guess, he's going on You've Got the Power. Cobra Commander, awesome. I love this villain. This is one of my favorite Saturday morning cartoon villains ever. Cobra Commander used to be up there next with Megatron as top tier evil cartoon villains. Cobra Commander is the commander of the elite terrorist secret agency Cobra, a ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world. And in his movie, we're following up after the TV show. Cobra Commander was basically replaced by Serpentor, who took over as the new, more competent commander, because CC here, he failed a lot. He always lost. He was the classic, I'll get you next time G.I. Joe type of villain, always retreating, always losing, but vowing revenge. Megatron gets killed by Frieza, and I hope he fights Vilgax. Are you talking about Death Battle? I think I saw that one, yeah. Yeah, Frieza is definitely OP. He and Megatron are two psychos in the same asylum. Yeah, Cobra Commander, he's pretty cool. He's voiced by Chris Latta, who A lot of my 80s fans should know he was the original Starscream voice in Transformers G1, and pretty much his Starscream and Cobra Commander voice are exactly the same. Like, you could tell it's the same actor, but Cobra Commander, I thought, was his better character. I know, blasphemous, how could I disrespect Starscream like that, but Cobra Commander is great. He's pretty much the exact opposite of Megatron. He is a completely underhanded, cowardly snake. He always fights when he's winning. He doesn't fight fair. He uses dirty tactics. He cheats. Whereas Megatron fights with more honor and is more upfront in his approaches. This Cobra Commander, a total snake, a slithering coward, always conspiring against people. He's more of the schemer than the gladiator that Megatron is, but I really love him. Unfortunately, also in his movie, he sort of gets deposed. Like, first off, Serpentor is basically taking his job. We're following up on that arc from the TV show, Arise, Serpentor, Arise. And we meet the real villains of this movie, the Cobra Law, and there's this very odd backstory given to the Cobra Commander where he was some kind of like alien scientist who got horribly mutated, and they sent him up to the surface world as like a secret agent to take over the planet for their kind, like a group of snake people. Yeah, this gives us Cobra Commander's 80s cartoons origin story, and he was kind of an alien mutant kind of guy. It is weird. The G.I. Joe animated movie is a very bizarre movie, not gonna lie. Waiting for Red Skull versus Cobra Commander. Yeah, I want to see that too. Chris Latta was also the giant red ghost, and Sammy K. Ferret in the real Ghostbusters. Ooh, I haven't heard him on that. I'll have to watch those episodes. Yeah, Cobra Commander basically gets deposed. The Cobra Law, the real villains, his underground serpent society, basically throw him away and use him as a test subject for their evil, like, bioweapon. They're trying to turn all of humanity into snake mutants, and Cobra Commander is used as a subject showing people what this thing can do, and basically, this is where I got that quote, "I was once a man, I was once a man." Yeah, I play that in a lot of my videos, specifically the older ones. We see what Cobra Commander actually looks like, and the mutation basically destroys his sanity and his human-ish figure. He turns into like this hideous snake monster and becomes kind of like a rabid killer croc kind of looking ghoul. It's very gnarly looking and pretty creepy too. I think Cobra Commander is much creepier than Megatron, mostly because he like hides his face and he's ambiguously humanoid underneath that. Yeah, he was turned into a monster mutant, and he finally gets his revenge. He thwarts Serpentor's plans during the final battle. He like shows up and foils his attack against the hero, and this ruins Serpentor's one shot at victory. So Cobra Commander got his revenge, and as 80s fans can tell you, he eventually returns to normal back in the cartoon. I like today is the year of the snake. Is it? I thought that was coming on the 29th. Also, Evox and Beast Morphers from Season 1 sounds like Cobra Commander, in AI form. Okay, yeah. Cobra Commander, he's a classic, so of course he's going on You've Got the Power. Alright, Transformer. Let's do Starscream, the classic Chris Latta Starscream, who, yes, he's going up on S rank, and he does go above Cobra Commander. Yeah, this is G1 Starscream, who modern Transformers fans either love or hate, and fortunately I do love him. I love Chris Latta's Starscream. The G1 Transformers cartoon is still awesome. I do love it. I do respect it. Although it's not my favorite Transformers cartoon because I did not grow up with it. I'm not that old. I did not grow up in the 80s at all, so I have watched it through the Hub network, basically. The Hub was playing the classic G.I. Joe and Transformers tunes a lot, and Chris Latta's Starscream definitely grew on me. I do really appreciate him. This is the iconic design for Starscream, the big, bulky, seeker form, and yeah, of course Starscream is good in the movie. Basically, we see Starscream do what he always does, conspire against Megatron, and he actually succeeds in the movie. After Megatron is completely beat up by Optimus Prime and wounded, Starscream throws him and all their wounded off the Astro Train and successfully takes over the Decepticons. Megatron is left for dead, and Starscream actually wins. He gets his cool king outfit, which I remember from the Cybertron games. Also, he played Beetle and Sandman in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Oh, never saw him on that. It is 2025, and yes, it's the Year of the Snake. Well, I thought the Year of Snake happens when it's officially Chinese New Year, and Chinese New Year hasn't happened until the 29th. And of course, how could we forget, Starscream gets like his most iconic death scene in this. Starscream's crowning himself at this big overblown egomania ceremony where he gets his crown and everyone praises him. Then Galvatron shows up and shoots him into ash. Starscream is turned into like a gray ash and he disintegrates horribly on screen. Starscream's death is like the most brutal and he's finally dead for good until he comes back as a ghost in the TV show, but that's a story for another story. Yeah, definitely not putting on You've Got the Power. I know he's a fake-out villain, but who doesn't love G1 Starscream? Alright, so back to the Joes, and we do have to talk about Serpentor, who is technically the main villain of the first animated movie, and yeah, Serpentor's going on Lowly Snake. I have mixed feelings about this guy. For those who don't know, in the 80s show, they were afraid that the formula was getting stale, so they needed a new bad guy to basically usurp the Cobra Commander and be a real threat for G.I. Joe. And in comes Serpentor, the evil Emperor Snake / test tube baby that was somehow devised by the Cobra Law. They like implanted the idea in Mindbender's head to construct him, and it was like this long game kind of plan, like retconned in the movie basically, that Serpentor was created as the ultimate super soldier to lead Cobra to victory. And yeah, I've always kind of had mixed feelings about this because I love the Cobra Commander, so seeing him basically usurped by this more incompetent, psychotic, like man-child kind of supervillain definitely did not win him over, and Serpentor's outfit has always been kind of a joke amongst even the hardcore G.I. Joe fans. He wears like this Emperor Cobra Snake kind of outfit. He looks more like a supervillain than a terrorist, which, yeah, did kind of start G.I. Joe's cartoon's decline. Except Starscream died by Rainbow Dash. Yeah, I saw that one. Rainbow Dash beats Starscream's skid plate. Yeah, so Serpentor, he's kind of the villain in the movie. He took over the Cobra Command organization. It turns out he was made by the Cobra Law, these real villains. He's kind of playing the Darth Vader to the real villain's Emperor. He's the enforcer doing all the job, getting his hands dirty, doing all the evil jobs. He's the one leading the charge. So technically he's the main villain. And yeah, basically he almost wins. He successfully killed Duke. / not really, he put Duke into a coma by stabbing him in the heart. Yeah, basically, if you don't know, there was kind of this controversy when the Transformers movie killed off Optimus Prime, so at the last minute, the G.I. Joe movie changed a whole lot, and Duke was supposed to die, but they were afraid they'd get a similar reaction to Optimus Prime's death, so Duke actually survived Serpentor impaling him on his spear, and he was put into a coma and lives at the end of the movie. I'm here, yo Joe, and till all are one. Hey Christopher, you made it. We're getting the animated characters out of the way first. We're on our second G.I. Joe villain, Serpentor, and Serpentor becomes basically the tack dog for the Cobra Law. He's doing their bidding. He wholeheartedly worships Globulus and joins him in his ranks because they can finally help Cobra win and take over the world. However, his plans go up in smoke when Cobra Commander in his mutant form derails him, and he's defeated basically by Lieutenant Falcon. Very, very pathetically, I might add. He like gets his cape stuck on his hover scooter or something and goes flying off. I really wished he died in that blast, but no, they save him later for the show where he's turned into an iguana and Cobra Commander's brought back to life. Yeah, Serpentor going on Lowly Snake. He has a few badass moments, I won't deny. He was definitely a threat, but not one of my favorite Cobra villains. Yeah, we'll put him on Lowly Snake. Alright, so okay. We're almost at the end of the animated villain, so let's do Unicron, the Planet Destroyer, who, of course, he's going on You've Got the Power. Yeah, you know, I might actually put him above Megatron, especially for doing the movie comparisons. Yeah, Unicron, the Planet Destroyer, voiced by the late, great Orson Welles in what was his last movie role ever? Yeah, Orson Welles, a very famous Academy Award-winning actor, played him. It was like one of his last roles before he died, and yeah, he said he didn't like this character, but honestly, I think it was one of his best final performances ever. Orson Welles gives a really creepy voice. Unicron is a scary villain. He's a giant kaiju transformer, basically the Transformer Satan. He was this exiled monster from Cybertron. He can transform into a planet. In the movie, he looks kind of like a Death Star, but with like a spider pincer. Unicron is introduced basically killing planets. He's like eating people. He destroys this like peaceful, friendly robot planet, killed everyone there and ate them, and he's making his way towards Cybertron and then Earth. He's going to eat them. Unicron, very, very creepy too. Orson Welles has like this scary, booming, demonic voice. He's very unsettling. They don't show you his robot form until the end. It's actually a twist that he's a Transformer himself. They treat him more like this cosmic being, this monstrous boogeyman exploring the space. He came from the darkest regions of the outer space, basically, searching for planets to eat. He stumbles upon Megatron and his dead Decepticons. They were left for dead by Starscream because they didn't want to treat their wounded, and he offers Megatron a chance to live again and become his herald, doing his bidding and hunting planets, and he requires the Matrix of Leadership because it's the one thing that can destroy him and his essence. Megatron agrees, and he's rebuilt into Galvatron, and he gets all the new toy minions, and they serve Unicron for at least half the movie, while Unicron's kind of off-screen. Yes, we wouldn't get a great Unicron until Prime on the Hub Network back in the 2010s. Well, I thought this Unicron was also pretty cool. Serpentor was played by Dick Gaudier, who also played Rodimus Prime and Hot Rod in Transformers. I think he was in the cartoon, not the movie. Judd Nelson was Hot Rod in the movie. And the G.I. Joe, Unicron and Prime has done way more justice than The Last Knight and Rise of the Beast. Well, that's because the comics care more about the lore and mythos than the actual movies. Like, Unicron's kind of off-screen for most of the movie. He's commanding, and you definitely feel him, but he's there on the sides commanding Galvatron, while Galvatron does all the dirty work, basically. However, when Galvatron eventually gets the Matrix, he tries to use it on Unicron, but haha, he can't because he wasn't chosen by the Matrix of Leadership. And Unicron has this epic movie transformation where we reveal that he's actually a giant Decepticon himself, and he's going to Cybertron to punish Galvatron for his betrayal and eating their planet. And the heroes have the grand final battle against him. And Unicron slays a lot. He was also supposed to kill Shockwave in the G1 movie, but it was deleted because apparently it was too graphic. Unicron's laser beam, like, slices the Decepticon tower in half, and Shockwave's body was also sliced in half, and it looked too graphic. It ended up deleted. But Unicron has this epic kaiju battle, destroying Cybertron while it's helpless. Then, Hot Rod and the heroes, of course, save the day. They break into Unicron and his Death Star insides and have the fight with Galvatron, where he uses the Matrix of Leadership. Hot Rod becomes Rodimus Prime, and he blows the hell out of Unicron from the inside. where Unicron gets his head blown off, where I guess they'll save him for a sequel, but don't worry, Orson Welles won't be returning as him. And Unicron is the ultimate endgame villain that they defeat and overcome, and he became a staple to Transformers mythos ever since. Yeah, of course, G1 Unicron is awesome. You've got the power. He is legendary. He was the scariest part of the movie, and after all these years, we still feel Unicron's influence on the entire Transformers franchise. So, of course, he's a S-rank classic. Tell that to the Squid Head in Armada. Oh, you're talking about the Unicron trilogy? Yeah. Yeah, Kira, Orson Welles has been in a lot of things. I remember Unicron died by Galactus. Yeah, that's because Galactus has been around longer and has more successes under his belt. Unicron kind of explored the galaxy in his G1 version. But yeah, he's on You've Got the Touch. Alright, so we should probably talk about the G.I. Joe animated villain, Globulus. Yes, that's his name. This is Globulus, the only original character to the G.I. Joe movie. Globulus is the real mastermind behind everything. He's part of this evil snake alien organization called the Cobra Law. They were once a powerful race of monsters who ruled the Earth before humans evolved. Then, when humans finally grew intelligent and were able to fight back, they sent the Cobra Law packing where they hid underground and basically kind of became hell demons. They're like living underneath like the magma chambers of Earth. They're living underground deep inside. And Cobra Law basically makes contact with Cobra. He's disappointed in their failures and wants to form an alliance with them, mainly Serpentor. He offers Serpentor their forces and advanced technology to help upgrade Cobra into the powerful organization it wants to be so they can finally take over the Earth. Of course. And he and Serpentor form this odd friendship. He treats Serpentor kind of like a son figure, basically. And Cobra Law is voiced by another legendary actor for the 80s shows, Ernest Borgnine, who plays the Penguin, and I think he played Mermaid Man. I might be misremembering. He like played the Penguin, played Mermaid Man from SpongeBob, and yeah, I'll put Globulus. I'll put him on Cobra Cool. He was a really cool villain. He has this creepy, like, organic kind of technology. He like shoots like face hugger guns. They have like starfish throwing stars. They have swords that can turn into snakes. He has this really cool kind of sword with like a worm that crawls around it. Very, very trippy, like H.P. Lovecraft kind of stuff. However, this is kind of the problem. This character is a very weird addition to G.I. Joe. Basically, they introduce more supernatural and magical characters to G.I. Joe, which did not fit. G.I. Joe is a war cartoon. It is more sci-fi. At best, it is like Star Wars, but with American soldiers and terrorists. Then they decide to have like these H.P. Lovecraft kind of monsters in the movie, and to this day, there's still fans kind of divided if this was a good idea or not. Burgess Meredith is the actor of Globulus. Okay. That voice Puff in the Magic Dragon. Well, he was also the Penguin in Adam West Batman. Yeah, Unicron died by Galactus in Death Battle. He did. Okay, so Globulus, I think he's a really, really cool design for a villain. He was a pretty neat kind of bad guy. The guy playing him definitely had a huge fun in this. He was so over-the-top hammy. He's kind of the Emperor Palpatine to Serpentor's Darth Vader. He's the real villain of the movie, but the Cobra Law as a whole was agreed to be one of the most ridiculous additions to G.I. Joe, and yeah, this character has not aged well compared to most, mostly because he's so out there, and the Cobra Law are such an absurd supernatural concept that they did kind of take away a lot of the realism that G.I. Joe had. G.I. Joe was a lot more grounded than the 80s cartoons were. It was more relatable. The human soldiers felt like actual people. The Cobra Command were over-the-top supervillains, but they also weren't aliens. They weren't mutant monsters, and the Cobra Law kind of were. Yeah, Globulus, pretty fun. Definitely what elevates him, though, is the final battle where Lieutenant Falcon and his ragtag bunch of misfits finally invade the Cobra Law HQ. They're unleashing this bioweapon that'll transform all of humanity into snake people. And Globulus is, of course, the final boss. He fights Lieutenant Falcon, and in their struggle, we get this really sick fight where Lieutenant Falcon stabs his robot eye here with his sword, and it is pretty brutal, honestly, for an 80s kids movie, but that's what made it so cool. Thought about reviewing the G.I. Joe movie, but not sure if anyone's interested because G.I. Joe has kind of faded into obscurity for a lot of modern audiences. But G.I. Joe is awesome, and I think Cobra Law was a cool villain. He gets stabbed in the eye, and basically, he runs away, and I guess we assume he died because his base blew up, and absolutely nobody but from the Cobra Law made it into the G.I. Joe cartoon after the movie was over. So I guess Globulus died off screen. I'll put him on Cobra Cool. He was definitely a neat villain, but pretty much a fun one-shot type of villain. Definitely liked Burgess Meredith's performance. That elevated him. Really cool concept of a monster man. I think he's pretty decent. What do you think of doing a Kim Possible Hot Girls tier list? Maybe, but I don't watch Kim Possible. I've watched that show like in and out, more of a casual fan. I wanted to give the show a whole shot, but I just can't find it all, and I've never made time to really watch it. Alright, so next, let's do Cyclonus. That was his name, yeah, Cyclonus, who also I'm gonna put on Cobra Cool. This is Galvatron's new second-in-command, Cyclonus, who is a really cool character in the cartoon, but he didn't really do much in the movie. He's expanded upon in the cartoon, like the follow-up seasons after the movie took place. Cyclonus is a repurposed Skywarp. Skywarp and Thundercracker, two of the iconic Seekers, both die in the early battle, and they're casted out with Megatron in space along when Starscream declares them useless cargo. And Skywarp and Thundercracker are reformed into Galvatron's new second-in-command, Cyclonus and Scourge. And unfortunately, they don't do much in the movie other than interact with Galvatron. They're kind of somebody he talks to. In the shows, he did a lot more, and Cyclonus has blown up into a fan-favorite character, so much that he appears in Rise of the Beasts as the main villain. But in the 80s movie, he didn't do much. He's just a cool minion. I'll put him on Cobra Cool because he's definitely not below average or even mid. He's definitely cool design. He's got like this demon-looking kind of armor. He looks like Satan, and pretty fun, pretty cool. But he's not well into the movie, and you know, I think I might put Scourge up there too. Yeah, Scourge and Cyclonus. They don't do a whole lot in the 80s movies. They're explored in the show, and to be honest, I kind of prefer the Unicron trilogy Scourge a lot more, because that Scourge actually had a character arc, whereas these two are pretty much just cool minions. Cool, but not S-rank, not S-rank. Alright, so I guess we should get Cobra Commander's animated minions up there. Ah, the Baroness. The Baroness going on, you've got the power, because you know, I love the Baroness. She is one of my Saturday morning cartoon crushes. She's the classic femme fatale. She's hot, she's smart, she kicks butt. She's really wicked, really skilled as a espionage spy master. Baroness is awesome. Of course, I'm putting the 80s one up there. She is You've Got the Power. And since we did 2 Transformers, we should also get Destro in there. Destro, I'm gonna put on Cobra Cool. He's definitely above Globulus. He doesn't get to do a whole lot in the movie. That is the problem. That's why he's not S rank. I think Even the Baroness did a lot more in the movie. She played a key part in infiltrating G.I. Joe. Destro is kind of there. Everyone loves him. The cool metalhead, badass arms dealer guy. He's one of Cobra Commander's former second-in-commands, but kind of got demoted as soon as Serpentor took over. Yeah, Destro, he's cool, because I love him on the cartoon show, but he doesn't do much in the movie. That's the only reason he doesn't make S-Rank. Please don't kill me, Joe fans. Roger C. Carmel also played Sir Tuxford in Disney's Adventures of the Gummy Bears. Never saw that. And Smokey and the Bear. Done way better on G1 than Robots in Disguise 2025. Yeah, Cyclonus got a lot more in every other cartoon but the G1 movie. Never saw Star Trek the Animated Series. RIP to original voice actors. That's right. Rest in peace, Morgan Lofting. You are a legend. We love you. Morgan Lofting played the Baroness, and she played Aunt May in the Spider-Man the Animated Series. The 90s one, to be clear. And yeah, legendary voice actress. It's a real shame we lost her. I was hoping to get her autograph one day. But yeah, her character's legend. Destro, definitely decent. He's cool. I would put him higher if we were counting what they did in the cartoon shows, but as you can see, we're only doing their movies, and Destro just didn't do a whole lot. Alright, Galvatron. How could I forget Galvatron? This is Megatron reformed into Unicron's Herald Galvatron, and you guessed it, we're putting him on You've Got the Power. Yeah, I'll put him under Cobra Commander. Galvatron, awesome. Voiced by Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Spock himself, just for the movie until Frank Welker takes over in the TV show because money. Yeah, Galvatron, awesome. He is pretty much the actual villain of the Transformers movie. He's Megatron reborn into a more powerful warrior. Megatron got wounded, and Unicron reforges him into Galvatron, who was supposed to be kind of his Silver Surfer herald, but Galvatron had his own plans and agenda and betrayed Unicron, only to realize that Unicron was OP. Galvatron, oh, he's awesome. Of course he's awesome. His first thing he does is he destroys Starscream, melts him into ash. That is badass. And Leonard Nimoy is awesome. Leonard Nimoy is one of the greatest actors ever, and I really loved him as Galvatron. I kind of wish they kept him for the show, but no, they got Frank Welker to do his angry PMSing Fred voice. R.I.P. to Leonard Nimoy. It was nice to bring him back as Sentinel Prime. Yeah, that was definitely a nice idea, but we have some things to say about Sentinel. Morgan Lofting, rest in peace. Yeah, she was also Princess Martha in Grimm's Fairy Tale. And Black Cat. Oh, she was Black Cat in Spider-Man. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, she does have a sexy voice. Yeah, Leonard Nimoy voices Galvatron, and as a tribute to the Transformers movies, Michael Bay did bring him back to play Sentinel Prime because I guess that was an excuse to have somebody famous from the Transformers, which wasn't Peter Cullen. Yeah, Galvatron, of course he's awesome. He's a kick-ass 80s villain. He kills bots in this. He's badass. He gets the job done. He almost murders Ultra Magnus too, and he has his final fight with Hot Rod before he becomes Rodimus and pwns him. Galvatron, definitely you've got the power. He was a kick-ass villain and one of the few good replacement characters in that Transformers movie. Definitely an S-tier character. Who doesn't love classic Galvatron? Okay, I will do 2 G.I. Joe characters because we're almost done. Zartan. Zartan, I'm gonna put on Cobra Cool. Yeah, I'll put him right there under Globulus. Zartan, cool in the cartoon, didn't do much in the movie. Just like Destro, he's kind of lowered. He's carried by how awesome he is in the show. Zartan, if you don't know G.I. Joe, he's the master of disguise for Cobra. He's the infiltrator, the spy. He can transform into other people, and that's very useful as a terrorist who wants to spy on your enemies. He's this really kick-ass, kind of ghoulish, badass biker kind of guy. He has that really epic voice reverb. He sounds really awesome. He got this like kind of electronic voice he can alter the way he sounds, and Zartan's always been a cool villain. Unfortunately, he doesn't make it to S tier because he doesn't do much in the movie, which, yeah, most of the original Cobra villains got demoted to side characters on the movie. That was kind of a big problem with it, because the Cobra Law were the real villains, but Zartan, he's a classic villain. I'll put him on Cobra Cool. And last we have from the G.I. Joe movie, the Enforcer. This is that big, burly demon bodyguard Globulus has. He's basically just a giant, stupid brute who throws down. He's the final boss for Sergeant Slaughter to beat up. That's all he really is. I'll put it on Basic Bot. Yeah, our first Basic Bot entry, and yeah, basically it's a generic muscular brute. He fights Sergeant Slaughter in the final battle, and it's really cool and kick-ass because he's shown through the movie how invulnerable and tough he is, and seeing Sergeant Slaughter go old school wrestling on his arse is so awesome. Sergeant Slaughter is epic. He was so great on G.I. Joe. Really loved him. Sergeant Slaughter was played by the actual wrestler Sergeant Slaughter, which made him even more awesome. Played by Imhotep himself in 2 movies. Yeah, that's movie Zartan. We're not at there yet. But yeah, this is cartoon Zartan. Arthur Burkhart also voiced Pete in Disney Party and Golf, Murray the Mantis in Real Ghostbusters, Singe in Dragon's Lair, and Officer in the new Scooby Mysteries. Oh, that narrows it down. Well, it was a shame Zach Hoffman was only played Zartan. Yeah, he wasn't played by a big voice actor. So yeah, we'll put the Brute on Basic Bot. His coolest scene is fighting Sergeant Slaughter, but that's because he's supposed to make Sergeant Slaughter look cool when he beats him up. Yeah, definitely just generic invincible enforcer who gets taken down a peg in the final battle. He did his job. Alright, looks like we're done with the old school animated movies, so now we're gonna be starting with the live action movies, the Bayformers, and the live action G.I. Joe flicks, which I know you're all looking forward to. So we should start with the classic Megatron, Hugo Weaving. Alright, so Hugo Weaving going into Lowly Snake. No, not Basic Bot, Lowly Snake. I'll put him above Serpentor, so don't worry, Bayformer fans, he gets that. So, this is Hugo Weaving's Megatron from the first 3 Transformer movies. We have his later designs on here. Yes, Cobra Commander and Megatron are on here multiple times because they basically get retconned every movie because their continuity is terrible. Hugo Weaving's Megatron, Lowly Snake. Yes, I know Hugo Weaving's a great actor, and honestly he does fine for the 6 lines he gets each film, but I am not a fan of Michael Bay's Transformers. I like Sergeant Slaughter, voiced by Bob Remus. That is his real name, but his wrestling name is Sergeant Slaughter. He's awesome. He made that movie. Sergeant Slaughter was awesome on G.I. Joe. But back to Hugo Weaving. Hugo Weaving's Megatron, just a letdown. It is pretty much a generic evil space overlord bad guy. Megatron gets no character and not much depth. He gets some things in the Dark of the Moon, but not too much going on in his original trilogy. Hugo Weaving's fine. I do not like this design because, I'm gonna be honest, Michael Bay's Transformer designs are awful. They are hideous. They're way too wiry, too monstrous looking, and it is really hard to identify which bot is supposed to be who in this universe. Every character but Optimus Prime and Bumblebee gets an F, and yeah, the designs definitely hurt. I will have some trouble identifying some of the Decepticons because, honestly, they all kind of look alike and look so off-putting and unrecognizable that it's going to be hard to determine who's who. But Hugo Weaving's Megatron, he was cool in the first movie. Then after that, he became everyone else's bitch. He's like every other villain's attack dog. He whores himself out to every new villain in the sequels, and Megatron was cool in the first movie. Yeah, he's badass. He's got this kick-ass transformation. All these awesome fights. Unfortunately, He didn't impress me when Shia LaBeouf killed him at the end of the first film. He like used the Allspark to like turn him off or something. Yeah, I don't remember. The Transformers writing is very bad. He dies in the first movie by Shia LaBeouf. I was kind of disappointed because he talks about how Optimus Prime used to be his brother, like actual brothers, not best friends brothers. They were actual siblings in this saga, and they do absolutely nothing with that for like 7 to 8 films. Hugo Weaving also played Agent Smith in The Matrix, Elrond in Lord of the Rings, and Bill Barnacle in Magic Pudding. Oh, how could you forget V for Vendetta? Done more justice in the tie-in comics. Yeah, a lot of people have told me that. The Transformers comics are a lot better than Michael Bay's movies, because the comics actually expanded upon things and helped elevate all the good points over all the terrible ideas from Michael Bay. Yeah, Michael Bay was more focused on the human antics in these movies, and I know a lot of people love the first Transformers movie, but I don't. I thought it was just as bad as the sequels. It gets points because it did have cool moments. It did have badass robot action, and unfortunately the sequels got worse. So because the sequels sucked as they went along, it looked a lot better in comparison. The only good Michael Bay vs. Transformers movie was Bumblebee. Ironically, the one that barely had Michael Bay involved. And Transformers 1 is good. Michael Bay, if you can believe it or not, did actually executively produce that movie, but thankfully he did not write or direct it, which is why it turned out so good. But back to Hugo Weaving's Megatron. Yeah, he sucks. He sucks. He was a generic Doomsday villain in the first movie. He did his job well. I would have given him Basic Bot, but I remembered he got killed by Shia LaBeouf. And then in the sequels, he gets ruined. He comes back to life. They fix him with a fragment of the Allspark, and he goes to Cybertron, and just when you think he's gonna be cool, he becomes lame. He like beats up Starscream and said, "You think you're in charge? There is no command of the Decepticons but my own." And then 5 seconds later, "The Fallen, how may I serve you, my master?" And there goes all his awesome dignity. Yeah, Megatron becomes the Fallen's lapdog. He becomes Sentinel Prime's lapdog. He becomes Quintessa's lapdog. He becomes Stanley Tucci's lapdog. Yeah, Megatron becomes every other better villain's bitch. And that is not Megatron. This is not the badass Megatron we know and love. And yeah, he did lose a lot of points because the sequels made him suck. They even make fun of this in Arthur with Buster and the Brain becoming critics. Oh, I have to see that. And played Lust in ABC's Seven Deadly Sins. Oh, he did. Okay, I never saw that. Yeah, Megatron, as you said, he was done better in the comics than his actual films. Unfortunately, we're judging him based on his movies, and unfortunately, he sucks. All the Michael Bay Transformers characters who aren't Optimus Prime or Bumblebee suck. They're all terrible, they're all bad representations of the character, and it's pretty clear that Michael Bay and his writing staff just injected a lot of their own terrible original ideas into fan-favorite characters, and Megatron has definitely suffered the most because he gets called out by Sam's girlfriend on how much he sucks. Yeah, Carly has to tell him that he has to get his balls back, and he kills Sentinel Prime with Optimus in Dark of the Moon and sort of redeems himself, and then he gets punk killed by Optimus. Yeah, after all that character development of Megatron getting back in the villain saddle, he's punk killed easily by Optimus Prime. You know, the guy who's on equal fighting skills with him. Terrible, terrible. He is a lowly snake, and he only makes it above Stupid Glitch because he was good in the first film. Alright, hang on, I gotta use the restroom, but tell me which character you want to see next. I'll have you guys vote. Yo, Joe's cat is back, ready to do another character. Alright, did you guys vote for a Transformer or a Cobra character? Oh, Starscream, okay. Oh, Charlie Adler's Starscream. I believe this is him. I don't know. Forgive me. It is very hard to tell some of these characters apart because all the designs suck. I think this is Starscream because it looks like it has him and his stupid drooling spit he had in the later sequels. Charlie Adler's Starscream is our first stupid glitch. Yeah, he's bad. He is bad. This might be the worst ever Starscream, and is it really any doubt when you're murdered by Shia LaBeouf of all characters? Michael Bay's Starscream, total failure. It is not like, he's not like the character at all outside of his cowardice. So, Charlie Adler voices Starscream, trying to emulate Chris Latta's voice to questionable degrees, and this might be Charlie Adler's worst ever voice performance because, unfortunately, he's not written well, Starscream's not cool, he's not scary, and he goes out like a punk. You want Sentinel Prime next? Okay, we'll do him later, but right now let's do Starscream, Megatron's second in command. Yeah, Starscream, not done in the justice in the films. He's barely present in the first one. He gets his name dropped, we see him, he gets one scene with Megatron. Yeah, in the entire 3-hour Transformer movie, Megatron and Starscream have one 2-minute scene together. And all he says is, all he does is do a mission report for Megatron. Starscream, where's the Allspark? The humans have it. They're taking it elsewhere. You have failed me again, Starscream. After them! And that is the only time they talk in the first movie. Starscream shows up, gets some shots in the final battle, and then he retreats at the end of the first movie because Starscream's a coward who's known for running away. Like, that is the one trait they actually get. This Starscream is totally cowardly, retreats when things aren't going the Decepticon way. If they're losing, if they're pathetic and outnumbered, outmatched, Starscream always runs away. The only quote I remember him is, sometimes cowards survive, is like convincing Megatron to retreat. Like, that's all he does. He runs away, and he only fights when he's attacking Shia LaBeouf or human characters, because Starscream is so weak and pathetic that even Megatron, coming back revived from the dead, beats his ass in this submission. Charlie Adler also voiced Lowlight in G.I. Joe, Deputy Fuzz and Tex Hex and Brave Star, Mr. O'Greasy and a pup named Scooby-Doo. How could you forget Buster Bunny? He was the classic Buster Bunny from Tiny Toons. One more faithful G1 Prime is the... Oh, one G1 faithful Prime is the one for you, yeah. Nothing like G1, yeah. Also Chance, T-Bone, Full Long, and Swap Kids. Okay. Yeah, Charlie Adler, this might be his worst role. Charlie Adler is actually a good voice actor. You've heard him on something. He was like Cow and Chicken. He was Buster Bunny. He's also the Cobra Commander in G.I. Joe Renegades. Yeah, he does a lot better as Cobra Commander than he does as Starscream. Yeah, Starscream basically gets his butt kicked in all these movies. He joins the battle against Optimus Prime, gets beaten up, and I don't remember any of the lines he said in anything outside of his cowardly ones. He's like, oh, come here, boy. You'll die, boy. I'll get you, boy. That's like half his dialogue in Dark of the Moon. And most of the Decepticons don't talk, and Starscream got like such limited lines. Oh, and his only memorable scene that all of you remember, he gets killed by Shia LaBeouf. Shia LaBeouf like shoots a grappling hook in his eye, and basically Starscream cries and is in pain. He's running around flailing pathetically, hurting himself, and Shia LaBeouf and the Captain Lennox character, the military guy, they throw a grenade up to his face and it blows his head off. And that is the end of Starscream, and his decapitated head gets cameos in the sequels. Yeah, awful, stupid glitch, worst Starscream ever. Of course he's the worst, and honestly this might be the #1 worst on this character list, because Starscream was one of the best Decepticons, and he's turned into a total pathetic joke by Michael Bay. Okay, so Akira wanted Sentinel Prime. We'll do Leonard Nimoy's Sentinel Prime from Dark of the Moon, who's going on lowly Snake. I will put him above Megatron because he actually beats him up and wins the war. So, this is Sentinel Prime, who all my Transformers animated fans should remember. We're going to be seeing him again later, because Transformers 1 made him on this list. But yeah, we're talking about Dark of the Moon Sentinel Prime. He's a lowly Snake. He's almost a good villain. I won't lie, seeing Leonard Nimoy back as a Decepticon, being cool, being scheming, evil, really cool seeing him back, and Sentinel Prime is far more effective at being the bad guy than friggin' Megatron. Sentinel Prime is found on Earth like in a stasis pod. Optimus Prime welcomes him back because Sentinel was like his mentor. This is his hero. Sentinel Prime's sort of a Count Dooku-ish figure. He was once a heroic Autobot, a leader among the Primes, but then he gave up on the Autobot way of life and joined the dark side. It turns out Sentinel Prime is friends with the Autobots, then he betrays them. He murders Ironhide in one of the coolest deaths of the movie. He shoots him in the back and disintegrates him with cosmic rust, revealing himself that he was evil and he made a deal with Megatron, and basically he joined the Decepticons to help them conquer Earth. The Revenge 2017 Rape and Revenge movie had more satisfying blinding bad guy death than Starscream. Yeah, definitely. Oh, and he was MODOK in Avengers Assemble. Okay, I thought that was Wally Wingert. Okay, and listing a bunch of Charlie Adler roles. Yeah, Nimoy is back as Sentinel Prime, and honestly, he's probably the best in the voice cast next to Peter Cullen, because you can actually hear what he says, since most of the Decepticons can't speak intelligently. Sentinel Prime joins the Decepticons, and basically his evil scheme is that he's going to save Cybertron by using a space bridge tech to bring it here in our solar system. He wants to bring Cybertron as Earth's next door neighbor and basically save their planet but also conquer Earth and enslave all of humankind. This was like this plan they made for like generations and years, and it's all coming into fruition now that Sentinel Prime is finally awake and ready to enact it. And Sentinel Prime basically enslaves Megatron too. Like, he puts Megatron into submission and beats him down, and yeah, in Carly's words, Megatron becomes Sentinel Prime's bitch. That is how much better this guy is at being the villain than friggin' Megatron. Which, yeah, definitely earned him points, but then you start to realize a lot of his plan doesn't make sense, and his plan almost destroys both Earth and Cybertron. Yeah, when I said they're gonna beam their planet into our solar system, they beam Cybertron and Earth like literally right next to each other, like a hop and a skip away up in our atmosphere. It's like our planets almost crash because the gravity is so strong on both worlds. Major foreshadowing of Ironhide's death in the prequel Dark of the Moon game, with the whole "he will pay dearly for that" from Megatron. Okay, I have to see that now. Sounds like it would make the movie better. Leonard Nimoy also played Exonerheart in Kingdom Hearts. Oh, cool. The Great Paris and Mission Impossible, and he was in Duckman. We need female Transformers or live action Baroness. We do have a live action Baroness. We got 2 of them, in fact. We'll get to them. But still on Transformers. Yeah, Sentinel Prime, he takes over, but then Optimus reveals he was alive and survived his assassination attempt. They come and very easily beat up the Decepticons and derail their entire evil plan. Which, yeah, more reason why Michael Bay's Transformers sucks is because the villains get beaten up easily as soon as the heroes come back. Sentinel Prime loses, and unfortunately, what dropped him to lowly Snake instead of basic bot is how he goes out. He's beaten up and he's pretty much begging Optimus to spare him. He was only trying to save Cybertron, and Optimus shoots him executioner style. Sentinel also goes out like a bitch in this movie, which is why he got dropped to lowly Snake instead of being the basic bot. Yeah, pretty almost a good villain, but he ended up pretty weak, and it doesn't help that Dark of the Moon also sucks. I know some people told me Dark of the Moon is the best of the Transformers sequels, but I think that only stems from the fact that they got more familiar, iconic Autobots and Decepticons. And not because the movie was actually good. Yeah, we'll put him on Lowly Snake. So yeah, we gotta get back to G.I. Joe. So, let's do the live-action Baroness Sienna Miller from The Rise of Cobra. And controversial decision, but I'm putting her on You've Got the Power. Yes, I love Sienna Miller's The Baroness. She's hot, she looks like the character, she actually kicks ass, she's actually very faithful to the character until we get to the twist. The Baroness is basically Destro's right-hand woman / lover. She's helping Destro start up this political uprising plot. She's stealing nanite technology so they could put in their Mars missiles, and they're going to... These nanites have the power to eat away metal, and they're going to shoot these nanite missiles upon all the capitals of all the United Nations, all the superpowered countries. They're going to take out Beijing, Moscow, Washington, D.C., and Paris, France, basically. Destro is going to incite fear and cause all the superpower nations to lose their superpowers. Hey, Shadowlink, you finally made it. Oh, a Transformers G.I. Joe movie tier list? This is going to be interesting, with most of the movie's reputations. Yeah, it will be. Okay, so, I know this is a controversial thing, but I love the G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. I actually like Rise of Cobra and Retaliation. I think they are fun movies. I think they capture the spirit of G.I. Joe, and I think some of their questionable decisions weren't too bad. The Baroness, we're on the Sienna Miller's Baroness from Rise of Cobra. She's actually on You've Got the Power because I really dig the Baroness. You know, I have a crush on her. She was a childhood crush of mine. Love her on my waifus list. And I think Sienna Miller did a good job. However, this is... So... Okay, Alright, my reconnection was successful. Okay. Yeah, sorry, almost lost Duke's sister. She wasn't Duke's sister. She was Cobra Commander's sister. Yeah, sorry, almost lost you guys. Good thing we're back. Let me just check to make sure. Yeah, reconnection successful. Okay, thank goodness. Alright, we're back. Okay, so, I actually like The Rise of Cobra, and I was okay with the controversial decision with the Baroness. It did warm up to me, so... The Baroness is basically serving as Destro's right-hand woman. She's hyper-competent, she's deadly, she gets the job done. She's actually very faithful to the 80s cartoon Baroness. She acts like her, looks like her, doesn't talk like her. Sienna Miller did not bother with a Russian accent, which is the one downside for me. However, we find out near the end of the movie, the Baroness used to be Duke's fiance. She used to be a blonde. She looked like Sienna Miller, basically. She was Duke's fiance until Duke left, then she turned evil, but not really. She's actually brainwashed by her brother, the Cobra Commander, into being this evil, sexy, villainous femme fatale and serving as Destro's woman, basically. She injected mind control nanites into her along with all their super soldiers, and she's actually been a slave this whole time, where her brother pimped her out to Destro, and she's been the obedient, badass girlfriend he always wanted. Sienna Miller, who also played Fiona Bickert on Keen Eddie, Francesca Bruni in Casanova, Margaret in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof. Hey, Shadowlink, glad you made it. Yeah, the Baroness was basically being mind-controlled this whole time, and Duke's fiancé, her innocence is still in there. The Baroness was entirely a fake persona. She was being controlled by Destro and the Cobra Commander. And kind of creepy that Cobra Commander basically pimped out his sister to get in with Destro, but this is a very underhanded Cobra Commander tactic, won't lie. Yeah, we find out the Baroness is actually a complete innocent being puppeted Jill Valentine style. Duke frees her, and the Baroness is redeemed and saved through the power of love. Yes, really. The power of Duke's love for her snaps her out of this mind control, and she becomes a good guy. So, a lot of people do not like this decision because it goes against the classic Baroness. However, according to the filmmakers, this was based off of an unused story from the G.I. Joe comics. There was actually a story where the Baroness was actually a victim of mind control and brainwashing. She was actually this innocent woman who was forced into this villainess role. And the movie decided to take that idea and use it for the big screen. A lot of people do not like it because it gives Baroness a sympathetic side. It made her a redeemable villain, and kind of an excuse so guys wouldn't feel guilty about crushing on a bad girl if she was actually a nice girl underneath all her sexy, suave, and Catwoman charisma. Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like it. However, it has grown on me, and thankfully we have gotten a lot of great G.I. Joe media later, mostly Resolute and Renegades. And I did think Rise of Cobra, although it was a controversial move, I actually warmed up to it. I do like it a lot more now, and I think this was a pretty fun portrayal of the Baroness. I wish Grey DeLisle could play the Baroness. That could be cool. Actually, Akira, Grey DeLisle did play the Baroness on G.I. Joe Resolute. It is free on YouTube. It was kind of this Clone Wars style movie. It was building up the Rise of Cobra's release, and Grey DeLisle did voice the Baroness on that. It was very brief, but that was the one thing she did play in G.I. Joe on. Who else is looking forward to a G.I. Joe Transformers crossover and very cautious about it with the ending of Rise of the Beast? Yeah, Rise of the Beast did end with G.I. Joe coming in, and they're going to have a crossover of G.I. Joe versus Transformers, just like in the comics. I have no faith in it because Transformers movies have sucked, and the G.I. Joe continuity has kind of been a mess. But yeah, I do love Sienna Miller's Baroness. I will put her on You've Got the Power. I know I will suffer a lot of flame wars and backlash for it, but what can I say? I like what I like, and she was a pretty dope Baroness. Alright, back to Transformers. Let's do the last main Decepticon, Soundwave. I think this is him. Please forgive me, Michael Bay's designs are super ugly. I can't tell who's who. But I think this is Soundwave. He transforms into a satellite, and then somehow he becomes a car in Dark of the Moon. Yeah, he's going on stupid glitch. I'll put Starscream under him because Starscream went out like a punk. Soundwave was not done justice in these movies, along with everyone else. Soundwave is the spy of the Decepticons. He's their communications officer, master of espionage. He had one cool scene in Revenge of the Fallen where he tentacle rapes a satellite and hacks into it. They did get Frank Welker back as Soundwave, but stupidly did not give him the vocoder voice. He doesn't sound like a robot like he normally does, and instead Frank Welker uses his Dr. Claw voice. He was Frank Welker, only Michael Bay role. I think Frank Welker was also Shockwave, but Shockwave didn't barely talk in that, so I don't know. Could Grey DeLisle be a permanent Baroness voice actress? I think she could if we got another great G.I. Joe cartoon. It's gonna be hard to top Renegades, but if they bring that back, I don't think anyone would complain if Grey DeLisle played the Baroness in a G.I. Joe show. Like a full-on show. It's like, she'd do a good job. It's like, the Baroness is basically Catwoman, so yeah. She's already proven herself. That's Megatron from Transformers 1. Is that? I don't think that's him. I put Hugo Weaving's Megatron up here. I think this is Soundwave. It's hard to tell because the designs suck, but this one looks bluish, so yeah, well, most of them are going on stupid glitch. Yeah, Soundwave sucks. He does barely anything, and Laserbeak got more lines than him in Dark of the Moon. And his pretty much high point is he executes Wheeljack, who was already nerfed on the movie, so no huge achievement there. He executes Einstein Wheeljack. Wheeljack cries like a bitch, and then Bumblebee decides to fight back and kills Soundwave easily. That is all he does in these movies. He's a glorified goon, and his only role is he dies like a punk. Yeah, Soundwave sucks in the movies. Hopefully Transformers 1 will save that. Next, let's do Storm Shadow from Rise of Cobra, who I will put on Cobra Cool. He will go above Destro, that's for sure. This is, I think his name is Bang Hoon Lee. I don't fully remember. Like, this is Storm Shadow from The Rise of Cobra. He's a badass ninja assassin. He's Snake Eyes' arch nemesis and basically the evil version of Snake Eyes. He and Ray Park have an awesome fight scene. Everyone agrees that the ninjas were the coolest part in the G.I. Joe movies, and Storm Shadow's no exception. He's really cool, he kicks butt, he gets the job done. He was the Baroness's master, her sensei, taught her everything he knows. They're partners in crime for most of the movie, and yeah, they're really awesome. Really love them as a villain pair. Loved him and Snake Eyes' rivalry. They do explore his backstory. We see when he was a child, he always hated Snake Eyes when he was adopted into their dojo. He conspired against him, always wanted to one-up him, was kind of the Vegeta to his Goku. And eventually he got so pissed off that Storm Shadow murdered their sensei. This is later retcon. He murdered their sensei because he thought the old master loved Snake Eyes more than his own child. And he ran off where he used his skills for evil and became like Destro's right-hand enforcer. And yeah, who doesn't love a kick-ass ninja minion? He's awesome. Storm Shadow's the white ninja. He's very cool, very ghostly. Lee looks very awesome in this role. He's this badass in a nice suit. He's always wearing white so you can tell who he is. And yeah, I think Storm Shadow was a pretty thrilling character. Had this very heavily built up boss fight between him and Snake Eyes in the reactor room, where it's awesome. He dies, he gets thrown into the Arctic Ocean where he dies, only to somehow survive that, but we'll get to that later. The Storm Shadow in Rise of Cobra, everyone agrees was pretty awesome. Even people who hated the movie thought he was the only one accurate to his character. So yeah, we'll put him on Cobra Cool. Yeah, a lot of the Decepticons in the Michael Bay Transformers movie sucked. Yeah, they do, which is why most of them will be going on Stupid Glitch. Soundwave's Japanese actor also played Hulk in Marvel Rival, Kang the Conqueror in Marvel Future Avengers, and Killer Moth in The Batman. Ooh, good for him. The other one was from Revenge of the Fallen, Megatron. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Most of them are gonna suck. And Shroika and Demon Knight in the Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue Japanese dub. Okay, I don't listen to the Japanese dubs because I'm not Japanese. Alright, so let's start getting rid of some Bayformer characters. Shockwave. Yeah, does everyone remember Shockwave was on Dark of the Moon? Apparently Michael Bay almost got David Warner to voice this character, but they weren't so lucky. David Warner passed it over, and they gave the role to Frank Welker, I believe. And honestly, there was no point to Shockwave because he's supposed to be this badass, hyper-intelligent Decepticon scientist, and none of the Decepticons even speak in their movies. Shockwave, stupid glitch. He was not done justice. He's another terrible iteration of this character. Almost all of Michael Bay's Transformers Decepticons are terrible. They don't do a good job representing the character, and Shockwave pretty much does nothing all movie. He has like 2 lines, and then he dies horribly when Optimus Prime shows up. Yeah, that is all they do with Shockwave, one of the greatest definitive Decepticons ever, and he's just a glorified minion. Yeah, screw him, he sucks. The Fallen. Oh man, what a waste of Tony Todd's talent. Fallen, he's going on Stupid Glitch. I'll put him above the others because Tony Todd voiced him, and Tony Todd is awesome. The Fallen, another terrible idea of a character. He's basically one of the former 13 Primes. He's Megatronus Prime. He was exiled by the good Primes because he was evil. However, he conspired against them and formed the Decepticons, where Megatron was actually the leader, but they retcon him in that he was actually in charge the whole time, because if there's one thing Michael Bay's Transformers movies are good at, it's bad continuity. The Fallen is basically living on life support and hiding in this dark cave. He needs Megatron to kill all the Primes, and he successfully kills Optimus Prime, and Revenge of the Fallen's plot is actually about bringing Optimus back to life. The Fallen finally gets out of his old man chair because Optimus is dead and raises hell. Then he finally joins the final battle when they're destroying the pyramid, but then Optimus comes back to life and he punk kills the Fallen in 1 minute. Yeah, it sucks. Those Michael Bay films are terrible. Yeah, you're preaching to the choir, buddy. Guess Storm Shadow took lessons from the chick with the eye patch from Kill Bill, films of killing masters. Yeah, he probably did. Lee Byung-hun. Okay, that was his name. Well, it's also the T-1000 in Genesis. Oh, poor Lee. And frontman Hwang In-ho, Young Il in the Squid Game. Oh, okay, step up. An assassin, but done somewhat better in the tie-in comics and the prequel Dark of the Moon game. Yeah. R.I.P. Tony Todd, yeah. The Fallen, terrible villain. He's a generic, uninteresting boss fight, and not a very satisfying one. Optimus Prime punk kills him in that infamous, "Give me your face, I rise, you fall." And fall he did on this tier list to down low. Oh, poor Tony Todd. Thank Primus he came back as Dreadwing, because Dreadwing was a much better role of his. Alright, what's this? Oh, I think this is that stupid Hydra machine Shockwave had in Dark of the Moon. It's like, should we even count this? This is like Shockwave's pet. It's like his super machine that attacked the human cities, and it killed a few people, and it pretty much also got punk killed as soon as the Autobots show up. Yep, put on stupid glitch. Starscream way worse. Yeah, this was just basically an evil pet that Shockwave rode until it died. Very pointless character, pretty much a waste of CGI and budget. Who cares? Is this Unicron from the Bumblebee? I think this is one of his, like, CGIs we saw briefly. It's like, yeah, we'll put him on rock bottom. I'll put him above the Fallen. Stupid glitch. Is this Cyclonus or Scourge? Yeah, doesn't matter. Stupid glitch. I think this is Starscream from the first movie, or one of the sequels. Yeah, stupid glitch. Almost all of these are gonna go on stupid glitch. Lockdown from Age of Extinction. Yeah, also stupid glitch. He's not as cool as Lance Henriksen Lockdown. He was the... Lockdown and Galvatron are kind of the villains of Age of Extinction. Mostly Lockdown. He was hired by the Quintessons to steal this superpowered seed from Earth, and it's supposed to repopulate, like, Transformer life, and honestly, he doesn't really get much character. Transformers animated Lockdown was so much cooler, and Michael Bay tried to leech off that popularity, and he transforms into a gun, and his best moment is he kills Ratchet, and that's it. Yeah, Lockdown sucks in Age of Extinction. Stupid glitch. Speaking of which, Galvatron. Okay, Galvatron from Age of Extinction. I will put on Lowly Snake. I'll put him under Leonard Nimoy's Sentinel Prime. Yeah, Galvatron. Megatron got rebuilt by the US government into their own Transformer, and he became Galvatron, voiced by Frank Welker finally, replacing Hugo Weaving. And this is not a very good depiction of the character, but he does have, like, an awesome line I love. He makes it to Lowly Snake because there's one line I love from Galvatron. He's fighting Optimus, and he transforms, like, with nanites, which is really cool. And Optimus is fighting him, and he says, "You can't defeat me. You have no soul." And Galvatron says, "That is why I have no fear." And yeah, that's awesome. I won't lie, that was a really cool line. "You have no soul. That is why I have no fear." That is cool, and Frank Welker's voice definitely helped elevate him above Hugo Weaving, that's for sure. Tony Todd has been in a lot of things. My personal favorite roles are though roles, though, are Candyman, the Grave Talker in Final Destination. His name was Bloodworth. And Zoom from The Flash. The Last Night. Oh, that's Dragonstorm. Okay, I didn't know that. Yep, still stupid glitch. That movie was awful. Tony Todd was Space Kook and Be Cool Scooby-Doo? Oh, I didn't know that. And then they brought him back in Robots in Disguise, in 2015 series. I did hear that. Mark Ryan also played Bumblebee and Ironhide in Transformers the Game. Oh, they didn't get Jess Harnell back as Ironhide. He was actually pretty decent. Yeah, Galvatron takes over as the new villain, and then The Last Night pretty much retcons him back into being Megatron. Yeah, there is no explanation. Galvatron is just thrown away and given a redesign. Galvatron becomes Megatron again. No explanation, no story. He's just back to being Megatron as if nothing happened because Michael Bay's continuity is trash. Yeah, Galvatron, almost a good villain, but ended up thrown away just when they actually built up a good antagonist. Oh, speaking of which, retcon Megatron from The Last Night, also stupid glitch. Last night, while we're on The Last Night, Nemesis Prime. This is Optimus Prime turned evil. Not really, he was brainwashed by Quintessa. Stupid glitch. Like, Peter Cullen does a great job in all these movies because he's the only one who cares about the character. It's like, did anybody even remember that Optimus Prime was going back to Cybertron to fight the Quintessons? At the end of Age of Extinction, he decides to take the battle to them, and in Last Night, right in the opening, he gets his ass kicked, and he's put in his place by Quintessa, who brainwashes him into being evil and turns him into Nemesis Prime. And Optimus is actually the villain of The Last Night. Not really, he's brainwashed, and he's doing Quintessa's bidding. He's hunting like MacGuffins, he's on a side quest collecting artifacts for her evil schemes, and apparently they're like resurrecting Unicron or something. Like, I don't know. The Last Night was the worst movie of the entire saga. And I know all of these suck, but Last Night was just so boring and pretty much a complete mess. Nemesis Prime not done justice. And the way they break his brainwashing is so stupid. Age of Extinction took the idea from Transformers Animated of Megatron's head, but unable to talk, of course. Yeah, Michael Bay stole a lot from the cartoons. He stole from the 80s show, he stole from Animated, and they stole from Transformers Prime, because Unicron is the Earth's core, just like on Prime. Yeah, they stole a lot. They stole a lot from the good Transformers cartoons, and all it does is make you want to see the cartoons over these terrible movies regurgitating them. The way they break Nemesis Prime out of his brainwashing is so dumb. He's fighting and he almost kills Bumblebee, but then Bumblebee talks and saves him with the magic of friendship. Yes, Optimus's brainwashing is broken by Bumblebee using the magic of friendship. And Optimus says, Bumblebee, you used your voice. I haven't heard you talk since the war. And like, what? He talked at the end of the first movie. You were there. You heard him then. It's like, Michael Bay's continuity is trash. It is trash. It is awful. Nemesis Prime sucks. Are we almost done? I think another Starscream design. Yeah, stupid glitch. Anyone care? Scorponok, who I'll put on Lowly Snake. I think this is Scorponok. It looked like him when he was leaping at the U.S. military. If it's not, like, doesn't matter. It's terrible. Scorponok had, like, a cool fight scene against the U.S. military. Then they beat his butt and he runs away. Then he shows up in Revenge of the Fallen where Bumblebee murders him. Yeah, way to use those Beast Wars assets, guys. Oh, Quintessa. The Quintesson villain. Stupid glitch. Last Night was awful. All Michael Bay's movies are awful. Quintessa is our quote-unquote stand-in for the Quintessons. She's the main villain of The Last Night, but she brainwashes Optimus into becoming Nemesis Prime for her evil plan of resurrecting Unicron, and she's kind of off-screen for most of the film. Like, if it doesn't hurt that her design is ugly as heck, she doesn't do anything, and she's anticlimactically sniped in the back by Bumblebee. Sting like a bee. Yep, that's it. He shoots her in the back and she dies. Our villain, folks. The Quintessons were done so much better on Cyberverse. Like what Brains and Dark of the Moon did for foreshadowing Sentinel's betrayal. Oh, I've seen this one. It's the one where Spot goes nuts. Yeah, I remember that. Well, at least Power Rangers 2017 is the worst Power Rangers movie. It was better than Michael Bay's stuff. The crosshairs for brainwashing. Quintessa's actress is from the Eternals. Oh, that explains why I fell asleep at her. And Dewdrop in Watership Down. Oh, she was in that? I didn't know that. Age of Extinction. Yeah, I read that. Okay, another Transformer I don't recognize. Stupid glitch. It doesn't matter. Most of them are going in stupid glitch. Another one I don't recognize. I can't tell who this is. This might be Bone Crusher or Barricade or some random Decepticon in the background. This is another Megatron design. Yep, stupid glitch. And I don't even know who this guy is, but he looks like a Transformer. I'll put him on stupid glitch. Alright, so finally at the Bumblebee movie. Everyone actually likes the Bumblebee movie, but I don't know, I didn't love it. I thought it was okay. I thought it was decent, but people love it because it's a movie that doesn't suck. It's the first Transformers movie we've seen in a while that didn't suck. There was actually love, actual effort. They actually tried to deliver a love letter to Transformers and give you a good movie. But unfortunately, the villains were still pretty weak. Like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it. The villain of Bumblebee should have been Starscream. Like, they should have had Starscream or Soundwave to be Bumblebee's arch nemesis. That would have been so much cooler. Instead, we get a bunch of random Decepticons who are named after fan-favorite Decepticons but are nothing like them in terms of persona. Blitzwing, I'll put on Lowly Snake. He was alright. David Sobolov had a cameo as this character, and we all know David Sobolov is a cool Transformers voice actor. He was Depth Charge on Beast Wars, and he was Shockwave from Prime, so of course he got to come back in a movie. He voices Blitzwing, and I kind of wish he was the animated version of Blitzwing, because that guy was S-rank. It really should have been the Quintessons and not an Enchantress stand-in. Yeah, that's what Quintessa was. Except Amora is actually hot. And, alright, so Blitzwing, he was okay. He was a minion who showed up and fought Bumblebee, and then he died. Everyone thought he was Starscream, which would have actually made the movie better, but no, it wasn't him. He just also transforms into a jet and looks like G1 Starscream. Pretty much a letdown. And, Dropkick and Shatter. Okay. Even if you love the Bumblebee movie, are you going to look me dead in the eye and tell me your favorite characters in the Bumblebee movie were Shatter and Dropkick? These guys were so obviously evil that even John Cena saw through their BS and knew they were the villains. It's like, I'm putting them on Lowly Snake. Don't worry, they'll go higher because Bumblebee had quality, but Dropkick and Shatter are not very interesting villains, and they kind of go together. They're partners in crime, working hand in hand and manipulating the US government, except not really because John Cena sees through their BS. Okay, no new comments. Yeah, Dropkick and Shatter, they're Lowly Snakes. They'd make it high up above the rest because there was an attempt there, but not definitive villains. I'm sorry, they're just not. I thought they were pretty weak, and the villains were not very interesting in Bumblebee's movie. Alright, so I gotta use the restroom, so you guys get to vote on who you want to see next. Yo, Joes, I'm back, and we're almost at the end of this list, if you can believe it or not. I'd say do the rest of the Joe villains and end our video on a good note with the Transformers 1. Alright, might do that. Done by the director of Iron Giant, no wonder it was good. Alright, let's do some Joe villains. Alright, so we're still on Rise of Cobra, so let's do Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Cobra Commander, aka the real twist villain of the movie. Alright, so I know it's hard to tell, but this is Cobra Commander, and the worst thing about him is his outfits. Like, they did not get his costumes right. Apparently, he's supposed to have, like, a prototype Cobra Commander outfit, like, as if this was Batman Begins, and we're working our way up to his classic look, and yeah, this helmet is really stupid. It looked bad. It made him look more like Destro than the Cobra Commander. However, I do love Joseph Gordon-Levitt's performance. He gave the Cobra Commander his own evil villain voice, and it was cheesy and over-the-top cartoony, but I actually did like the writing behind this character. Cobra Commander was definitely saved by how fun the writing is behind him. It's a lot more Saturday morning cartoon, but considering it's a G.I. Joe movie, it does fit. I will put, I know this might be blasphemous, I'll put Cobra Commander on Cobra Cool. Yeah, I'll put him under Storm Shadow because Storm Shadow at least looked like his character. The Cobra Commander doesn't make it to S rank because his outfits are awful. He looks like kind of like a Power Ranger villain for most of it, and then he gets this really doofy looking helmet. It's supposed to be a cross between his mirror helmet and his hood. Apparently he was going to wear the evil blue hood, but the director decided not to because they were afraid the Cobra Commander would look more like a Klansman. I thought that was a pretty stupid reason, but yeah, whatever. Both Cobra Commanders in 2 movies, yeah, because he gets a different design. I have art history class. Okay, take care, Akira. So by then, and if there's a DC animated movie universe waifu tier list, I will come. There might be. Hello, cool show. Alright, Cobra Commander, he's actually pretty cool as a character in these movies. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays the Cobra Commander, and if you don't know, he played one of Duke's best friends until he died, but it turned out he survived. He faked his death so he could go underground as this mad scientist known as the Doctor. The movie actually cleverly tricks you into trying to make you think this is Dr. Mindbender, the classic mad scientist from the G.I. Joe cartoon. They pretend it's Dr. Mindbender, but really, it's the Cobra Commander in disguise as a villain in the movie. He's working under Destro. Destro is in charge of the terrorist organization in the first movie. He's basically one of Destro's inner circle, one of his most trusted confidants, and a master-class scientist, helping their organization become more powerful. However, during all movie, he's secretly been conspiring against Destro to take it over and turn it into Cobra. He wants to take over Destro's assets and his organization, and he gained his trust. He pimped out his sister as the Baroness to her, which got him in closer, and he reveals himself when Duke gets captured, and he reveals that he survived that blast. He's actually the true power behind Destro's criminal organization. During an epic battle, Destro gets his face burned, and Cobra Commander seizes his opportunity. He implants the nanites into Christopher Eccleston's Destro, where his face turns into the chrome dome we all know from the cartoon, and this makes him an obedient slave to the Cobra Commander, where he rises, and he dons this really stupid-looking mask. "You will address me as Commander." Dun dun dun, and yeah, all intimidation is kind of ruined by this mask. Yeah, it doesn't look good, and it's why he's not gonna make S rank, because they did not get his costumes right. Cobra Commander takes over, only to immediately get captured like 5 seconds later when Duke brings the army. But it's not over yet, because Cobra Commander swears revenge, where in the next movie he becomes a more cooler, effective villain. played by the kid actor from Angels in the Outfield and Robin Stand on The Dark Knight Rises. Oh, Robin stand-in. Yeah, John, what's his name? John Blake or something? Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt honestly did a pretty good job. I actually thought he was a good Cobra Commander. He had his own voice, he had intimidation, he had a lot of fun, goofy Saturday morning cartoon kind of scenery chewing. Definitely fun. I like Rise of Cobra, and I do think his Cobra Commander was definitely written well, but not portrayed like very well in live action. That was the thing. His costumes did not look good, but I will still stick him on Cobra Cool. But you know which villain was definitely S-rank? Destro, played by the greatest Doctor Who, Christopher Eccleston, who I'll put on You've Got the Power. I really loved Christopher Eccleston's Destro. He is so cool, so smooth, so charismatic. Christopher Eccleston definitely brings this overconfident sleaze know-it-all kind of persona to him. Christopher Eccleston is one of my favorite Doctor Who's, so I was actually excited to see him as Destro. Destro, if you don't know, he's the arms dealer. He deals weapons, he sells weapons, he's secretly incognito the head leader of this terrorist organization. His is called Mars Industries. He's not Cobra Command just yet. In the original cartoon and comics, Destro is actually a weapons dealer who forms an alliance with the Cobra Commander. However, in the movie, he's actually the lead terrorist leader. He's secretly incognito, conspiring against the United Nations and all the world governments. He wants to form this nanite superweapon that will destroy all the nation's capitals and cause the superpower nations to lose their superpowers for this overly complex villain scheme that doesn't happen until retaliation. And really like Christopher Eccleston as Destro. I thought he was actually really good in this movie. He's definitely hammy and over the top, but in a fun way. He's an old school kind of Star Wars type of villain. He's smug, he's arrogant, and he does eventually suffer by the end of the movie. He's basically the mastermind strategist, forming all these evil plans. He's standing in the back, he's talking to the inner circle of his terrorist organization. He's the one they all obey and listen to. He doesn't realize Cobra Commander is secretly working against him yet. Then, at the end of the movie, he, fights Duke and gets his face horribly burnt. He, tried to use a flamethrower, but it blew up on him. And he gets nanites injected to him by the doctor, where it reveals that the nanites give him metal skin, and he has the Destro mask as his literal face. Destro has, ancestors who wore these iron masks as, punishment for their crimes. You are considered a disgrace, and they call you a Destro as, a loser, a destroyer, someone lowly in his nation, and they punish them by wearing these iron masks on them like prisoners back in the medieval era, and basically his face becomes exactly like one of these iron masks. And he is forced into submission by Cobra Commander because the nanites basically make him subservient to him. Cobra Commander reveals himself, and Destro is forced as his second in command. Up until the next movie, where Cobra Commander gets his prison break scheme underway, he breaks out, but he decides to leave Destro behind in one of the worst moments of the movie. Destro, you're out of the band. Yeah, that really sucks. I hated that moment. They get rid of Destro. And why? Because Christopher Eccleston was too busy failing on Thor: The Dark World. Yes, that is actually the true story. He was on Thor: The Dark World. Alright, checking if you guys are still here. Yeah. Christopher Eccleston had to leave G.I. Joe because he was in Thor: The Dark World as playing Malekith, or a butchered version of him, and Destro basically got thrown aside. So, yeah, I thought he was cool in Rise of Cobra, not gonna lie. I thought the movie was fun, and he was definitely a charming, over-the-top villain. I'll put him on You've Got the Power. Next, we'll do the last of the main Rise of Cobra villains, Zartan. This is Zartan, and they got the pic of him when he disguised himself as the president. Zartan, I'll put on basic bot. Like, Imhotep the Mummy, like, what's his name? Arnold Vosloo, I believe Arnold Vosloo played Imhotep the Mummy, plays Zartan, and Zartan doesn't do a whole lot in the first movie. He's much more prominent in Retaliation. Zartan is basically a thug who helps the Cobra agency, and he's a master of disguise. Like, Arnold Vosloo always whistles for he's a jolly good fellow, so you could tell it's Zartan in one of his trademark disguises. At the end of the movie, he takes the place of the President of the United States. This was a part of Cobra Commander and Destro's grand scheme. After they would destroy the superpower nations, they would replace all the world leaders with spies infiltrating as the world leaders, and Zartan was tasked with replacing the President of the United States. And they succeed at the end of Rise of Cobra. After all the dust is settled and the Joes think they won, Zartan reveals that he took over as the president, and we get a follow-up to this in Retaliation. In Retaliation, Zartan actually gets to do a whole lot more. However, my problem is he's kind of in the president disguise for 90% of the movie. Don't get me wrong, the guy playing the president is definitely funny. I will say the old guy's got some charm to him, and he's definitely having the time of his life, playing like this sassy, know-it-all douchebag villain, and yeah, the president is definitely funny as Zartan. Weirdly, they got him acting as Zartan more than Arnold Vosloo actually is in that movie. Zartan is pretending to be the president. He gives Cobra a full pardon and allows them, and basically enacting his own schemes to take over the world and doing all of Cobra Commander's bidding. He was also in Blood Diamond and the voice of Black Adam in the Shazam animated movie. Yeah, we saw that. How ironic, both mummy villains played Black Adam. Yeah, Arnold Vosloo was Black Adam in the DC showcase, and we all know The Rock, the Scorpion King, was Black Adam on his failed DCEU movie. Yeah, I thought Zartan was cool, but he loses points in Retaliation because he stays in his old man disguise for basically 90% of the film. We barely even see Arnold Vosloo as Zartan. He gets a few scenes here and there. He doesn't transform into his iconic 80s form that from the movie, which, yeah, we never see that in live action, which sucked. And basically, he gets punk killed by Storm Shadow. Yeah, a highly trained badass ninja assassin in his prime versus an 80-year-old man with a gun. I wonder who's gonna win that fight. Yeah, Zartan gets punk killed and stabbed by Storm Shadow because apparently there's some weird backstory where he was actually the killer of the old master and not Storm Shadow, which makes no sense in the context of this G.I. Joe universe. Yeah, I know it was in the comics and their real origins, but it wasn't in this movie's universe until it was retconned. Zartan, basic bot. He's an okay villain. But personally, I think the 80s Zartan is much better. Alright, so we do have Storm Shadow here from Retaliation. I know it's weird seeing Storm Shadow on twice, but that's because this Storm Shadow is an entirely different character. This is the sympathetic, tragic villain Storm Shadow, who makes no sense and goes against everything established by Rise of Cobra. Basically, after G.I. Joe Renegades proved very popular, they made Storm Shadow in Renegades was a tragic villain who was evil, but he realized the error of his ways and realized he brought dishonor upon his clan and actually undergoes a redemption arc. So Retaliation tried doing that, but it made no sense. Okay, first off, how the hell is Storm Shadow alive? He died at the end of Rise of Cobra. He was beaten in a sword fight, impaled, and sunk into the bottom of the coldest Arctic Ocean to his death, and if that didn't kill him, the base also blew up, which would incinerate his body. But Nope, Storm Shadow somehow lived past all of that, and he shows up alive with zero explanation whatsoever in Retaliation, where he forms a jailbreak. He shows up impersonating Snake Eyes, revealing he survived with no explanation, and he breaks Cobra Commander out of prison, basically, until he's injured and he's taken to the temple, and he heals there until Snake Eyes ambushes him, and we find out through very bullcrap writing that Storm Shadow was actually a good guy, and he would join Cobra to avenge the death of their master because it was really Zartan, which is a very blatant retcon. Plot armor be damned. Yeah, the president, played by Elizabeth Swann's father from the Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah, that was him. He's honestly pretty fun. I do like his kooky old man energy. He was definitely fun. I do not like what Retaliation did to Storm Shadow. I think he was actually the one downgrade of a villain in that movie, and I'm putting him on Lowly Snake. Yeah, I put him under Sentinel Prime, at least. Yeah. The Storm Shadow is basically, he gets a redemption arc, which is completely unearned and not at all what he was like in the first movie. They retcon him into a tragic villain who gets redeemed in the end, and he helps the Joes foil Cobra's scheme. Yeah, I call bullcrap on that. Yeah, pretty weak interpretation of Storm Shadow. He was much better in Rise of Cobra. Alright, so we got the other Cobra Commander. This is pretty much Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Cobra Commander, but played by a different guy, I believe. And they actually made him look like the damn Commander. So I actually will put him on You Got the Power. Yeah, we'll put him below Galvatron. This is Cobra Commander. It's the same guy, basically, from Rise of Cobra. And the one character, at least like his former counterpart, they actually fixed all the mistakes they made of the first movie. He actually looks like Cobra Commander. He actually runs Cobra. He's actually large and in charge. He's a badass, and Cobra Commander shows he's the real minds behind the scheme. He escapes from prison, and he's brought to the White House, where he works with President Zartan and Firefly, who we'll get to, and he's the real mastermind of the movie. Checking new comments. Okay, none. Yeah, Cobra Commander definitely fixed in Retaliation, I won't lie, and I really like him. He was cool, he's badass, he's got the intimidating voice, he's very creepy and a lot more ruthless in this movie. I know he was kind of pointless in it because Zartan and Firefly are more so the real villains, but I was just so happy to see the Commander finally brought on the big screen. I will put him on You've Got the Power. And our last Retaliation character, Firefly, who I will put on Cobra Cool. Alright, this is Firefly, the psycho for hire. He's an evil merc who specializes in pyro weapons, played by everyone's favorite Grey Jedi and former Punisher, Ray Stevenson. And Ray Stevenson is so fun. He's like over the top. He's this hammy, smug, arrogant psycho killer bastard, and he's really cool. He's got us a lot of awesome action scenes in this. Ray Stevenson really knew how to kick butt. He's basically the arch nemesis to Roadblock, played by The Rock. He's Dwayne Johnson's final boss, basically. He's this effective evil merc. He's got this rivalry against the Joes because he used to be a member of G.I. Joe until he was dishonorably discharged, so he vowed to destroy them and, of course, hired himself out to Cobra, where he gets a lot of awesome action scenes. He gets a lot of scenes bouncing off of President Zartan, and Ray Stevenson is so cool. It is hard not to like him. And basically, he has a rivalry with Dwayne Johnson in Retaliation. They fight each other. He killed all the G.I. Joes except for our main characters. And he gets the final boss fight, being the awesomest villain battle in Retaliation. He and The Rock, fight in the beach and under a bridge, and it is pretty epic. And he gets the most satisfying villain death of the movie, blown up by one of his own nanite fireflies. Yeah, Ray Stevenson's Firefly, Cobra Cool. This is a very great interpretation of the character, and I do really like him. He definitely helped save the movie for me. And wait, this isn't a G.I. Joe character. This is Dylan. Oh man, Dylan from Dark of the Moon actually made it on here. All right, well, put him on stupid glitch. Does anybody even remember Dylan? This is the guy who is the rival to Shia LaBeouf in Dark of the Moon. He's more attractive, he's more rich, he's more successful and more popular, and Sam Witwicky is jealous of him until it turns out he was actually evil and working with the Decepticons the whole time because his ancestors made this deal to betray humanity and sell the Earth, and Megatron would reward them, and he basically helps simp for Megatron and helps their evil plan until he gets killed by Shia LaBeouf. Yet Dylan sucks. We did not need a human Decepticon villain, I'm just saying. Or the human bad guys from Age of Extinction. Yeah, that's bad. Between Firefly or Goon Psycho from Iron Man 3 film, which would you like? Definitely Firefly. He was better there. Alright, let's scratch off the Joes before we get to the Transformers 1. This is Storm Shadow from the Snake Eyes movie. Storm Shadow undergoes a character arc where he's Snake Eyes' bro. They're both serving in the same ninja temple together. It is his home clan, the Arashikage. He's Snake Eyes' best friend and blood brother up until Snake Eyes betrayed the clan, and then he vowed to become enemies. Snake Eyes is actually kind of an anti-hero, but not a very good one. The Snake Eyes movie, if you're wondering, it sucks. It is the first G.I. Joe movie I actually hated. Yeah, some of you might not remember Henry Golding's Snake Eyes, where Snake Eyes was retconned into an Asian guy when he's usually a white dude who went to Japan to learn their ways, but no, that was deemed racist and whatever, so Henry Golding became Snake Eyes and went down as the worst version of him. Snake Eyes betrayed the temple. The Arashikage has this power source like a magical stone, which can, do anything because it has ultimate power. Storm Shadow vows to destroy Snake Eyes when he betrays them. They work together and defeat, the real bad guy, who's this evil Yakuza mob boss. I don't even remember his name, but he's right here. And basically, he gets exiled because Storm Shadow used the Sacred Stone against the villains, and this was deemed wrong by the clan, and he's exiled from his own home, basically banished despite doing more good than Snake Eyes, and he vows to get revenge on Snake Eyes for ruining his life, and weirdly, they made Storm Shadow the most sympathetic and likable character in that movie. So, I actually might put him on Cobra Cool. Not as great as Lee, but they actually made Storm Shadow a sympathetic character, and I actually rooted for him more than I did Snake Eyes. Yeah, the guy playing him is definitely good as him. So we'll put him on Cobra Cool. But we got the other villains, the Yakuza mob boss and the Baroness, who were the real villains of the movie. I'm just gonna say it. The Baroness I'm putting on Stupid Glitch. She makes it higher above most because they actually did hire a hot lady to play her, but the actress for this Baroness is terrible. The Baroness's actress is not very good. She does try to look and sound the part, and while she does succeed there, I don't think they quite captured her femme fatale antics, and honestly, her acting was not good. I almost forget that the Baroness was even in this movie because she's that ineffective. They basically use her to set up Cobra Command, which unfortunately went nowhere. And yeah, this is one of my least favorite interpretations of the Baroness. Sienna Miller was way better. Stupid Glitch. And we get the Yakuza mob boss, who I'm also putting on Stupid Glitch. I'll put him on the highest because the guy playing him is actually good. This is the Yakuza mob boss who Snake Eyes is working for. Secretly, Snake Eyes is sent to infiltrate the Arashikage, and the Yakuza are basically helping him track down the man who murdered his father, even though it's painfully obvious that the people who murdered Snake Eyes' dad are Cobra, who Snake Eyes is working with. The Yakuza mob boss wants to take down the Arashikage clan, and he sort of becomes the de facto final villain. Like, Snake Eyes has a change of heart, realizes that Cobra were the bad guys, and the Yakuza mob boss gets the stupid Power Stone, and he's tearing apart the clan temple, until Snake Eyes gets his honor and masters his ninja training, and fights him, where the Yakuza mob boss is fed to a giant snake. Yeah, it's... Snake Eyes, not a good movie, and the villains did not do anything for me. The guy playing him, not bad, but also not very well written, and we're basically supposed to forget that Snake Eyes did immoral things in this movie because this evil Yakuza boss was the real bad guy telling him to do it. But yeah, weak villain, really weak villain. I'm putting them on stupid glitch. Yeah, Rise of Cobra Baroness done way better. I agree. She was much better in that movie. Did not like Snake Eyes' Baroness, and I hope this girl does not return to play her again, or if she does, take some acting lessons. Finally, Transformers 1. Alright, I'm gonna use the restroom one last time because we got a lot to say. But tell me, which Transformers 1 villain should we start with? Autocats transform and roll out. We finally made it to Transformers 1, which, yes, was actually a good Transformers movie. For those who didn't give the movie a chance, like I didn't either because the trailers looked awful, but it ended up being a surprisingly great movie because guess what? They actually had the movie take place on Cybertron and focused on the Transformers. Wow, something that Michael Bay hasn't done for 7 movies straight. Yeah, they finally got a good Transformers movie, and it is a prequel movie showing how Optimus and Megatron became the iconic badasses we know and love. So naturally, there were some great villains, including D16, who became Megatron by the end of it. This movie was just prime and awesome. Yeah, Transformers 1, finally a good Transformers movie again. Everyone did like Bumblebee, but this one was almost like a 10 out of 10 movie. It was that good. I really liked it, and there were, of course, a lot of great villains. As you can see, got quite a few, though. Do Shockwave and Soundwave really count as villains? They were more so kind of a neutral party hiding away, and they didn't really do anything evil until they joined the Decepticons. But whatever, they're iconic bad guys, so why not? D16 Megatron. Basically like Taka and Mufasa in the prequel. Oh, I didn't see the Mufasa prequel. Adora and Catra from She-Ra, Princess Power. I would say more like Spider-Man and Harry Osborn. Yeah, Transformers 1, great movie, so you all want to hear who made what place. Don't worry, we got no stupid glitches here because the film actually had quality. So let's talk about the one you all want to hear, D16, aka Megatron. Who's going in? You've got the power. Yeah, I'll put him under Unicron because Unicron's just iconic, but D16, aka the bot who would become Megatron. We finally see Megatron's origin story. Megatron and Optimus used to be total bros. They were practically brothers. They loved each other. They were always there, always had the others back, and then the events of the movie happened. So, D16 has a really great villain arc. We are seeing how Megatron grew his mindset, how he came to be the evil Decepticon we know and fear, and honestly, they do a really good job at it. It doesn't happen quickly. I know some people felt he became Megatron too fast, but honestly, they were building up to it. We do see hints all movie that D16 is not the good guy. He is not the stable kind of sort. We do feel for him. You actually feel tragedy for Megatron because he used to hero worship Sentinel Prime. He believed in him. He always did things by the book. He did his job. Then we find out it was all a lie. Sentinel Prime is a fraud. He's a phony. And D16 learns that his hero doesn't care for him at all and has no belief in what he's actually saying to all the miners. And we realize Sentinel Prime actually betrayed the 13 Primes to the Quintessons for ultimate power. And Megatron undergoes his villain arc here. He doesn't want justice, he wants revenge. He wants to get back at him. D16 wasted his entire life in this farm. Alright, well, if I say farm, it's an Energon farm, so yeah. Basically, he's been mining and slaving away, obediently obeying Sentinel Prime's every command, looking up to him, and he finds out it was all a lie, it was all a pointless endeavor. They were basically slaves kept in happiness. So Megatron slowly but surely becomes the villain in this movie. He gets his own T-Cog, because Sentinel Prime had their T-Cogs removed, so they wouldn't rise up against him. He gets a transformation. He turns into a tank, just like in the classic cartoons. Megatron becomes a tank, and he slowly but surely starts fighting back against the system. He takes over Starscream's elite guard Seekers. Decepticons, transform and rise up! Yeah, it gives off Planet of the Apes Caesar vibes trilogy. Yeah, it did. Voice actor did a great job. Yeah, he definitely did. The guy playing him did really good. It's Wolfen time. Hey, Emily, we made it to Transformers 1. We're starting with Megatron from the new movie, aka D16. D16 basically takes over Starscream's Seekers because they're all kind of like rogue soldiers hiding from Sentinel's regime, but Megatron convinces them to fight back. They're taken prisoner by Sentinel Prime, who tortures Megatron, but he won't break. He still stands up to him. However, Orion Pax saves the day. They expose Sentinel Prime as a fraud, and all the bots turn against him, and Megatron finally breaks free and at last lets it all out. He snaps completely and beats the hell out of Sentinel Prime. He rips the fucker in half like a used Hasbro toy. Pretty gruesome too. Like, Sentinel Prime does die in this movie, and he gets ripped apart by Megatron, who rips out his T-Cog too to use as his own, and becomes Megatron and declares that they need to destroy all Autobot society. At first, you're with him when he kills Sentinel Prime, but he betrays Orion Pax and lets him fall to his death. I'm done saving you. And he decides to burn down all Autobot society, despite the fact that there are millions of innocent civilians in the crossover. And yeah, this is where he loses all sympathy and becomes Megatron. Hey, Emily, nice you made it. Yo, cat, Morbin time. Sorry I'm late, I just woke up and showered, doing morning stuff now. Well, you made it just in time for the tail end of the stream, Emily. We still got a few characters. Megatron is so cool in Transformers 1. They actually did a good origin story and actually delivered a sympathetic Megatron. you're like with him because he's been a part of this corrupt system and he believed in it at first until the shroud finally fell. He realized Sentinel Prime is not his hero. He murders Sentinel, rips him in half, and takes his T-Cog and decides he wants to destroy all Autobot society and basically burn away the past entirely to pave way for the Decepticons. However, Orion Pax, as you know, becomes Optimus Prime and revives from the dead, Optimus Prime Jesus style, and he defeats Megatron, but lets him go because they used to be best friends. But Megatron vows he will destroy Autobot society. And we get the post-credit scene where he forms the Decepticons, and we see they become the classic characters we all know and love to hate. Yeah, definitely, you've got the power. Megatron is awesome in this movie and undergoes some spectacular character development. They really did capture what made Megatron so good, and the guy playing him really delivered his all. He had pretty big shoes to fill, since, you know, Frank Welker's been this character forever. And yeah, he did a good job, I will say. Transformers 1, Megatron, you've got the power. We'll make Cybertron great again. Indeed we do, Emily. We live in an Autobot society. Which you would prefer, Orion Pax story arc in Prime or 1? Well, I will say Prime, because Peter Cullen is my Optimus. Like, we all know Peter Cullen will always be the definitive Optimus. Chris Hemsworth did a good job. We do actually see how he becomes Optimus, but I do like the story in Prime. Prime is still S tier for me. Transformers 1 is S tier, but slightly below it. Alright, so here's a character I know Emily will love to hear about. Starscream, played by Steve Buscemi. Starscream, unfortunately, doesn't do too much in this movie, but he definitely laid a big impression. I will put him on Cobra Cool. Yeah, I'll put him under Storm Shadow because Storm Shadow had more character. So Starscream in this is the leader of like kind of a resistance. They're all these rogue Transformers who wanted to escape Sentinel Prime's regime. They're the elite guard. They're hiding underground. Starscream's like king of like the Lost Boys kind of. Steve Buscemi does a great job. He basically sort of saves / captures Orion Pax, D16, and their friends and brings them here to like his underground base. He has like forces. They do have a lot of strong fighters. Shockwave and Soundwave and anyone else named Wave is a part of them. Yeah, Randall Boggs voices Starscream, he did. Peter is to Optimus what Kevin Conroy was to Batman, and what either Christopher or Josh is artist for Spider-Man, yeah. Sentinel's T-Cog. Megatron took Megatronus' T-Cog, which Sentinel stole from Magnus. Yeah, I did. I know I phrased that improperly, but yeah, it was Megatronus' T-Cog until Sentinel stole it, and Megatron felt he deserved it more. So, one of my favorite scenes in this is that Megatron decides to take over Starscream's forces because they need fighters to dethrone Sentinel Prime, and the elite guard is very reluctant, but they respect anyone who's strongest, and Megatron challenges Starscream for leadership. Yeah, classic Megatron Starscream. They duke it out and have an epic fight scene. And Megatron successfully beats up Starscream, and he actually like breaks his voice box, and this was one of my favorite moments in the movie. Starscream's voice box breaks, and it makes him go from sounding like Steve Buscemi to sounding like Chris Latta, the Starscream from G1. Yes, this is how they explain why Starscream has a funny voice, why he talks like Chris Latta. Megatron broke his voice box and it gave him his G1 voice, that high-pitched annoying voice. I will destroy you 1,000 times over. You will all respect Starscream. Like, it makes him sound like Chris Latta, and I really love that. That is a very nice detail. Spy Kids 2, Soy Heart. Okay. Soy Heart, I don't know who that is. Do you think God stays in heaven because he too lives in fear what he's created? Probably. Okay, they were the Cybertronian High Guard. Okay, that's who they were. I say Elite Guard because I've been binge watching Transformers Animated. Yeah, Starscream gets his voice box broken, and it's a funny in-joke because as a Transformers fan, I really liked it. They gave him like a voice synthesizer to make him sound like Chris Latta from G1, and it's an explanation why Starscream talks funny. And yeah, I really liked that. Big ups to Spy Kids 2, second best in the trilogy, to be honest. Well, most of the Spy Kids movies suck, Emily. Like, they only made 2 good ones, and the rest are all trash. So yeah, I do like the Starscream. Eventually, Starscream comes to respecting Megatron in a similar vein to War for Cybertron. He's impressed by Megatron's power, his leadership and his resilience and his ability to get the job done. Megatron stands up to Sentinel Prime while all the High Guard are staying quiet and are imprisoned in cages. And Megatron takes a lot of torture from Sentinel Prime, and that still doesn't break him. And Starscream pretty much joins in Megatron. This Starscream actually likes and respects Megatron, at least at first, before he becomes the backstabber we all know and love. Yeah, basically, yeah, Starscream instantly joins Megatron, and that's kind of the end of what he does in the movie. He gets a lot of cool fighting shots. We see him shooting up Cybertron. We see him cheering on Megatron. That's really it. I really hope Steve Buscemi plays Starscream again if we do get a sequel, because, yeah, Starscream was pretty cool, and they did make him look like his G1 counterpart, so mad respect for that. Alright, next we should do the other key Decepticons, Shockwave and Soundwave. Soundwave I will put in Cobra cool. Soundwave is definitely cool. They got John Bailey to actually voice him, which did surprise me. The Honest Trailers guy did Soundwave. Soundwave's cool, he kicks butt, he's kind of a cool backup minion there on the side, but that's what he's basically always is. Doesn't get much character, but he did join the fight scenes and is very quick to join Optimus, or Orion, and Elita 1's resistance, and he helps free the prisoners, so he did have one thing in the movie he did do. And Shockwave, this one I might put on Basic Bot. Okay, so Shockwave is one of my favorite Decepticons, and the movie oddly does him differently. This is a more anger-prone Shockwave. He has a temper, he's annoyed by Badassatron Bumblebee, he's like quick to get pissed off, he's always shouting, always angry, and he gets a funny scene where Elita 1 threatens him, "Why should we help you?" And Elita 1 pounds her fist, "We will help you." That is the only thing I remember of this Shockwave. Other than that, he's like just kind of there in the background. He gets funny lines, but I don't know, I will say he's not as good as Corey Burton or David Sobolov's Shockwave. It's like those guys were iconic. This one was just okay. Yes, I do see it takes place in space. Honestly, oh, you can't stand his voice in G1, but it's cool they put in the effort for the fan service. Yeah, Emily, how can you hate Chris Latta G1 Starscream? Yeah, I know he's very high-pitched and annoying, but that was kind of a fun detail in the movie. Like, it's not as annoying in Transformers 1. It's like Steve Buscemi with like a weird voice synthesizer. They tried to make him sound like Chris Latta from G1, okay? And it is a funny in-joke. That's what made it fun. Transformers 1 has a lot of fun in-jokes, and definitely doing that to Starscream helped. John Bailey voiced Shockwave in the Bumblebee movie. Oh, he did? Okay, why didn't he voice Shockwave in Transformers 1? Shockwave wasn't the only Transformers 1 with bad temper. Yeah, Darkwing, who weirdly didn't make the list. I know it's weird. Darkwing isn't on here, but I guess we had more big-name villains than him. Yeah, Darkwing had a temper, too. He was always pissed off. Weirdly, he didn't make it on here. That's kind of odd. Yeah, John Bailey voiced Shockwave in the Bumblebee movie. Okay, he did. Weird they didn't get John Bailey back as Shockwave. I mean, he could have been both Shockwave and Soundwave, but whatever. Okay, this guy is the Quintessons, and unfortunately, the Quintessons do not do much in Transformers 1. The Quintessons are, if you're familiar with Transformers lore, they are the creators of Cybertron. They created Cybertronians, they created the transforming Autobots and Decepticons. Here, they're kind of treated as these ominous, vague, greater scope space villains. The Quintessons are honestly pretty cool. I will put them on Cobra Cool, but they will go low because they didn't get to do much in the movie. They show up like in flashbacks and have one scene. The Quintessons are powerful alien invaders. They want to conquer Cybertron, and basically Sentinel Prime has hoarded out Cybertron to them. He made a deal in exchange for power. The Quintessons would not kill him and allow him to be Supreme Emperor of Cybertron so long as they deliver all their energon to the Quintesson Empire. And this Quintesson commander shows up. He doesn't really say anything. He speaks in these weird growls. I guess that was Frank Welker's cameo in this movie. The Quintessons show up, they threaten Sentinel Prime, they put him in his place and make it very clear that they can kill him anytime, and they demand more energon basically, and Sentinel has basically become their bitch. He's serving them, he's trying to please them, trying to keep himself alive, and keeping his slaves happy, while the Quintessons are milking all the benefits from this. It's implied we're gonna see them become the villains in a sequel, because they don't do much in this movie. They show up, they have this creepy kind of cosmic space monster dread to them, and I will say they are pretty cool. They had a few good scenes here and there, and definitely make an impression as scary villains. I mean, these are the guys who make Sentinel Prime quiver in fear. And yeah, definitely a cool cameo. I'm looking forward to see if the Quintessons get to do more plot-relevant bad guy roles in the sequels. Cyberverse Quintessons were much cooler, but they did not do a bad job introducing them to a new generation. I will say that. They're Cobra cool. Darkwing, yes, read that. Between Arachnid and Prime or 1, which is your favorite? Obvious Prime is a guilty pleasure for all the right reasons. Well, Arachnid was also more of a character in Transformers Prime, but in Transformers 1, she's Sentinel's psycho second-in-command. Yeah, so good news, Transformers fans. Arachnid actually appears in the movie. Yes, Arachnid, straight from Transformers Prime, is Sentinel Prime's psychotic enforcer. She's his second-in-command / torture master / she's like the big brother, always watching security, always keeping an eye on Cybertron. And Arachnid, I will put on Cobra Cool. Yeah, I'm putting her under Storm Shadow, because that Storm Shadow was awesome, okay? Yes, Arachnid is in this movie, and she's Sentinel Prime's evil chief enforcer. Basically, this cold, emotionless, ruthless, Nazi-esque woman who runs all security on Cybertron. She has her eyes on everything. Basically, this is why she's a spider. The entire network of Cybertron is her web. She keeps an eye on everything, is backing Sentinel Prime's big brother regime, kind of. She gets a cool helicopter transformation, and she's more or less Elita 1's boss fight in the climax of the movie. I will say, she's pretty cool as a villain. Very cold, very creepy. Not as scary as Gina Torres from Transformers Prime, but the actress did an okay job playing her. Possible booty call. Yeah. John Bailey voiced Shockwave in the Bumblebee. Yeah, you said that. Okay, so yeah, we are caught up. Yeah. Okay, this Arachnid is definitely cool. I would put her higher, but she doesn't do too much. She's more so Sentinel Prime's enforcer. She's the one doing all the dirty work, getting her hands dirty. She gets a badass scene where she beats up Alpha Trion in his beast mode form, and she's very effective as a villain until Elita 1 gets her T-Cog and essentially bests her. They hack into her, and we reveal Arachnid, because she records everything, even the stuff she sees. She plays a part in exposing Sentinel Prime when they hack into her brain, and reveal that Sentinel Prime is kneeling before the Quintessons and using their energon to make the Quintessons happy because he's not a real hero. Yeah, definitely fulfilled her villain job well. I will put her on cool because that's pretty much as high as she gets. She was a cool enforcer villain. Alright, gonna use my last restroom break, but we're getting to Sentinel Prime, who was actually a good character in this movie. BRB. Alright, I'm back. Finally, let's end this with Sentinel Prime. So, we all remember Sentinel Prime from Transformers Animated, but guess what? They actually fixed this character and made him good. How? By actually making him a full-on villain. Yep, they finally did it. They made Sentinel Prime the corrupt ruler of Cybertron, played by John Hamm, because he's played the bad guy in nearly everything, and he's pretty good at it. And Sentinel Prime, going on, you've got the power. Yeah, I'll put him under Galvatron. They'll put him there. Yeah, Sentinel Prime is actually a cool villain. Sentinel Prime is the fake ultimate hero that Cybertron looks up to. Sentinel Prime got his power because he betrayed the 13 Primes for the Quintessons, and the Quintessons rewarded him by making him the leader of Cybertron. In reality, he's just a slave and treated as their bitch because he has to serve the Quintessons by feeding them Energon, or they'll kill him and take Cybertron themselves. He's basically an obedient slave helping them and giving them all the Energon the miners are digging out from underneath. Sentinel is left in charge, and he's basically enslaved his own people. He betrayed his own race, and he sold Cybertron out to the Quintessons, but he made himself look like the good guy. He's gotten away with his evil dictatorship because he's manipulating everything behind the scenes. He's pretending he's this caring, compassionate leader. He has their best interests in heart. He's the cool guy. He's friends with Orion and D16 when he first meets them, telling them how he loved them in their race, but then sick Darkwing on them anyway. Bad in the best way. Yeah, mixture of Dark of the Moon and Animated. Yeah, Emily got all these comments. Like a female Soundwave mixture. Yeah, that was her. More better than the bad guy from the Disney Wish movie. Oh, guy, Cobra Commander by Joseph Gordon-Levitt was better than the Wish villain Chris Pine. It's like no contest. Sentinel Prime's pretended he's this benevolent dictator, basically. However, behind the scenes, he's doing awful things. He's making the miners work triple shifts. He's giving all their hard work and Energon, their life source, to the Quintessons because they gave him ultimate power. He killed the 13 Primes, and worse yet, as soon as new Cybertronians are born, he's been ripping their T-Cogs out and taking them away from them so they can't transform. Because if they can't transform, then they can't fight back. They can't leave the planet. They can't become somebody beyond a slave. None of the Transformers can transform except if you're on Sentinel Prime's friend list, basically. We're led to believe that only some Transformers can actually transform, and all the ones that can transform are basically Sentinel Prime's buddies. They're on his list, they're all his goons. It's him, Arachnid, Darkwing, everyone who is loyal to him to a T, basically, and he'll reward you by giving you a T-Cog, which Transformers are naturally born with. So yeah, really evil guy. he pretends he's the good guy until the heroes eventually stumble upon Alpha Trion, who reveals that no, Sentinel Prime's a big fat fraud. Best in the bad way. Okay, read that. Yeah, Sentinel Prime's a big fat fraud. He betrayed the 13 Primes and enacted his evil dictatorship, and honestly, I would say he acts more like Transformers Animated Prime, but they got rid of all his quote-unquote attempts at making him sympathetic and fully embraced being evil. John Hamm is over the top, but this is a guy who's like played the villain in every role he's ever been in. Sentinel Prime finds out that Orion Pax and D16 are indeed alive, and they're conspiring against him. They locate them at Starscream's base and kill and enslave all the prisoners of war, but Orion, Alita 1, and a handful of the High Guard survived and plot to save their friends. And basically, Sentinel Prime is the main villain of Transformers 1 until Megatron takes over. Sentinel Prime is the actual antagonist. He is everything wrong with Transformers society, exactly like animated Sentinel. It's all about him, it's his ego, it's his power lust. He's doing all these horrible, monstrous things and reveling in it because he's their god. He's above them. They gave him this evil kind of angel design to show you what a fake he is, kind of like Adam from Hazbin Hotel. Symbolic. It's just like the higher-ups are corrupted, just like some cops at the times, yeah. And definitely a good villain. He's like a mustache-twirling evil bad guy. John Hamm's over the top and having fun in this role. Definitely not afraid to make jokes and quips. He definitely emulates a lot of the animated Sentinel Prime in terms of persona. So full of himself and looking down upon them. Sentinel tortures D16 and brags about how he stole Megatronus's T-Cog as a trophy for him. He, has it in him, and this prompts D16 to fight back even more. Sentinel Prime is the one who brands D16 a Decepticon. He, gives him the stupid, Megatron logo on there, and that becomes an emblem of pride for D16. Eventually, Orion Pax and Alita 1 help save the day. They dethrone Sentinel's empire by having Arachnid held hostage and expose her recordings of Sentinel bowing down before the Quintessons and play that live over all the Cybertron live feed, and everyone boos Sentinel and realizes how evil he is, and D16 takes the opportunity to jump him and murder him. Sentinel Prime dies horribly, getting ripped in half like an old Hasbro toy. Very satisfying villain death, I will add. Yeah, he's going on You've Got the Power. Sentinel Prime, they actually made him a cool bad guy character. This is what Transformers Animated should have done with Sentinel Prime, and Transformers 1 definitely made him a big name among people. Now there are actually fans of Sentinel Prime because he's the cool bad guy in the movie. Definitely You've Got the Power. He was definitely awesome as a villain. I will put him up on S rank. Did D16 and Anakin Skywalker both fallen characters? Yeah, they are. They're both kind of fall in that same league. They wanted to be great heroes, found out that their dreams were misled by evil bad people who they didn't trust. Their friendships fell apart, and they both turned to the dark side. Yeah, I could definitely see they're alike. And sadly, I'm afraid Darkwing didn't make this list. He was pretty much just an idiot bully, and he had a handful of scenes. Orion Pax just punches him, and he dies by an arcade machine falling on him. Definitely a satisfying death there too, but not big enough to be a villain up here with all the cool ones. So yeah, I guess that completes our tier list. We'll go over it one last time for any late birds who showed up, but as you can see, got a lot more bad this time than good. I was a bit more merciful towards the good characters, but a lot of bad. Stupid glitch. Almost every Michael Bay Decepticon. They're all of them are down here, from Transformers 1 to Rise of the Beast. They're all down here. Michael Bay has not had a good Transformers villain in any of these, and it didn't become good Transformers villains until Transformers 1. Oh, and the Snake Eyes. The Snake Eyes villains made it down here too. The Baroness and the Yakuza boss, alongside all the terrible Bayverse villains. They are stupid glitch, they're bad, they are worthless villains, and you are not gonna remember them by next week. Then we have Lowly Snake. The highest Bay villains that made it are Dropkick and Shatter. They were okay. Not high villains, but definitely made Bumblebee a bit more interesting. I will say they were weak, but they had a lot more potential going for them. Sentinel Prime, who made it on here because Leonard Nimoy is awesome. Retaliation Storm Shadow, who is a completely different character. They tried to make him the Renegade Storm Shadow, but kind of failed. Galvatron, who I actually thought was pretty cool. This was almost a good character. He could have made it higher. Frank Welker came back to be Galvatron, and they threw him away next movie. Transformers, the original trilogy, Hugo Weaving Megatron, almost a good character, but they made him every villain's bitch. Serpentor made him a villain's bitch. Scorponok, who was okay. Blitzwing, who was also okay, then he died. I thought he died with Orion transforming and him getting cut to piece with Darkwing. Yeah, Sentinel Prime did die. It happened at the same time during a montage. Megatron's killing Sentinel and taking the T-Cog to become Megatron, while Orion Pax is dead in Cybertron and being taken in by Primus to be healed. It happened at the same time, so it's kind of hard to say, well, simultaneously both of them happened. Alright, basic bot. We have the Enforcer from the G.I. Joe movie, who basically that's all he was. He was an enforcer, an awesome boss fight for Sergeant Slaughter to beat up. He did his job. President Zartan. Almost a good villain, but ended up just being okay. And Shockwave, who was completely changed personality-wise, which is why he made it lower, but he did have his funny moments. He's okay. Cobra Cool. We have the Quintessons, really cool cosmic villains. I hope they get explored more. They showed up for a cool cameo and flashbacks and had their menace to them, which I really liked, but ultimately did not do as much as Sentinel did. Cyclonus and Scourge, they're just cool minions. They do a lot more in the TV show than they do in their actual film. Zartan, Destro, they do a lot more in their shows than they do in their actual movie. Globulus, who was definitely a fun villain, a really out there kind of bad guy, but I think Ernest, Ernest definitely did a good job. He was definitely a fun villain. Firefly. Ray Stevens' Firefly is underrated. He was a cool minion. He got the job done. He had an epic fight with The Rock, which of course was the best part of the movie. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Cobra Commander. I know his outfits suck, but I really like him. I thought he was entertaining as heck. He was definitely a great villain, writing-wise. Costume-wise is why he didn't make S-Rank, but Rise of Cobra, definitely underrated, and the villain really stole the show. Storm Shadow from Snake Eyes. Actually a pretty good villain origin. The problem is he was in a terrible, mediocre movie, which did not do him justice, but I think the guy playing Storm Shadow might be honestly underrated. He was really good. Soundwave, Starscream, and Arachnid. They're all pretty much evil enforcers, but definitely fun characters. Transformers 1 really knew how to have fun. They didn't make S-Rank because they didn't get enough focus, but I thought they were good. Transformers 1 is a good movie, and while not S-tier great, they are definitely decent as Cobra Cool villains. And top of Cobra Cool is Bang Hun Lee's Storm Shadow, who is awesome in Rise of Cobra. He is one of the greatest evil minions. He gets the job done. He looks cool. He has a cool fight scene with Ray Park Snake Eyes. Definitely liked him. Unfortunately, he didn't make it in S tier because he gets ruined in Retaliation. DC. Okay, read that one. Yeah, that happened. Getting my last water in. And top is the S tier, You've Got the Power. Christopher Eccleston's Destro, hugely underrated. I love that Doctor Who is one of the best G.I. Joe villains ever. I thought he was actually very good as an antagonist in the Rise of the Cobra movie. Definitely slightly better than Gordon-Levitt's Cobra Commander, but that's only because He actually looked good with his metal mask on. So yeah, Rise of Cobra, good movie, and Doctor Who, of course, was a good villain. Sienna Miller's Baroness. I got a weakness for this character. I really like her. The Baroness is one of the greatest cartoon villain femme fatales of all time, and I actually thought she was done greatly in Rise of Cobra. Yes, I know her redemption arc is controversial, but I had fun with her. She was definitely cool. Morgan Lofting's the Baroness, one of the greatest cartoon villains of all time, and Morgan Lofting's most iconic role ever. Like, of course she's S tier. The Retaliation Cobra Commander. They finally fixed this character, and they completely redeemed him in Retaliation. He is a cool, efficient, effective villain, and so far the best live-action Cobra Commander we ever got. He was done better in 28 Days Later as the villain. Yeah, Christopher Eccleston, he's pretty good as playing bad guys. I liked him more as Doctor Who, but Eccleston has some good bad guy acting. Next, Sentinel Prime, one of the greatest Transformers villains we've had in a long time. He is great, and they did the impossible. They redeemed Sentinel Prime as a character by making him a vicious, efficient villain. That is a miracle in its own right. Galvatron. Leonard Nimoy's Galvatron is awesome. I know he's not as present as Sentinel Prime is in his movie, but Galvatron is cool, he's wicked, he's brutal, he's savage, and Leonard Nimoy totally owns this role. I love the movie Galvatron. He is S tier, masterclass, evil boss fight. Cobra Commander, he is a classic villain. Of course, he made it up here. Cobra Commander is one of the greatest Saturday morning cartoon villains of all time, and I actually love him personally more than Megatron because he's so entertaining. So, of course, he's S tier. Even when he was dethroned by the awful Serpentor, he was still better than him. G1 Starscream. I know Emily's gonna hate me for this, but I like Chris Latta's Starscream. He is funny, he is endearing, he's a lot more egomaniacal than most versions of them, but Starscream is good in this, and Emily, in case you're sad he made it this high, don't worry, his best scene is when he dies. So definitely S tier. Megatron. Frank Welker's Megatron is a classic. Of course he's gonna be S tier. He'll probably be S tier on the G1 rating too. Like, who doesn't love Frank Welker's Megatron? Even when he's only in like half an hour, he is still the best villain in that movie. D16, aka Transformers 1 Megatron, awesome character, greatest character development, the actor truly owned the role, and Transformers 1 was definitely elevated by him and his awesome rise to power as the Decepticon we know and love. Of course he's S tier, but the only one who can outdo him is Unicron. Orson Welles' Unicron is a classic. Is anyone going to complain that Unicron's up top? The Transformers movie made Unicron a staple to the Transformers franchise. He is important, he is a boss, and of course, he is the scariest villain in the original Transformers movie. Unicron is great, so of course his original first version is going to be S tier. You've got the power of Unicron. Hashtag not my Starscream. Oh, Emily, you have much to learn. Much to learn. But yeah, I respect your opinion. Yeah, he's no Steve Bloom or Tom Kenny, but I do like Chris Latta's Starscream, not gonna lie. But that completes my tier list. Take a picture if you haven't seen it all. This is all of them as a whole. I can't fit it into one screen because it's just too big. Sorry, Michael Bay's villains took over the awful slot. But yeah. Transformers and G.I. Joe, I love them. Personally, I prefer the G.I. Joe movies a lot more, whereas Transformers, it only had two good movies to me, the 80s movie and the Transformers 1. I was not a fan of Bumblebee, but I would put it on okay, so technically 3 good Transformers movies. The rest suck. Michael Bay failed Transformers. G.I. Joe, I love The Rise of Cobra, Retaliation, and especially the animated movie. Snake Eyes was the first one that sucked to me. I won't deny that one was the garbage tier one. But yeah, G.I. Joe and Transformers are awesome franchises, and they were definitely carried by how cool their villains were. These are some of the greatest villains. and some of the bastardized interpretations of them. So yeah, that completes my tier list. Thank you for joining us all here. I hope you guys join us again because we may be doing another tier list this weekend, going back to horror this time. Alright, another tier list done. Any idea which the next will be? Okay, for all of you curious, I was gonna keep it a secret, but for all of you putting up with me and my never-ending bantering, the next tier list might be a tier list on the ultimate slasher killers. We found one. It doesn't have like every movie ever, but it has all the big name iconic slasher killers. Wolf might be joining us on this one, we'll see, but I do want to do a slasher killer characters tier list. We're going to be ranking all the slasher killers everyone knows from pop culture and all of some current horror movies. Hoping to do that most likely this weekend, so don't worry if you are worried about missing school or work to come in on these. But yeah, possibly slasher lists might be next. Anyways, that completes our G.I. Joe and Transformers movie villain tier list. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, or just tune in for more videos posted here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and I hope you guys join us again next time when we do another crazy tier list, or watch our next video. Hint, hint, a Goosebumps video is coming up, hopefully by the end of this week. But until then, we'll see you all next time. So, Autobots roll out, Decepticons rise up, Yo Joe, and Cobra. See ya.